Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round and with it another evening of absolutely intense, fast and furious racing action. You know and love it, for it is the one and only UK Sim Racing Community GT3 League Season 15, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing, and powered, or sponsored I should say, by the virtual racing school VRS. It is round number 3 of the championship. We've got plenty of rounds still to go. We were 2 rounds complete. Last time out, we were in the Garden of England for the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. However, we've made our way from the USA to the United Kingdom and now back across the Pacific we've gone to the other side of the world, and we are here in Japan in the foothills of Mount Fuji for the aptly named Fuji International Speedway. Once the test circuit at Mitsubishi and then became the test circuit at Toyota and Lexus, well, the F is synonymous from Lexus to the Fuji International Speedway, which is where it was the birthing ground of the F machines in Lexus's repertoire, starting of course with the 2008 ISF. But from the past to the present, this has been a circuit that's been many the crowning jewel of a championship, whether it be James Hunt's first ever and only ever title in Formula 1, or alternatively Super GT champions year in, year out. This Fuji International Speedway has one thing in common, and that is in the present day, it is a circuit that absolutely delivers when it comes to brilliant racing action. With one of the longest start-finish straights in the world, spanning the best part of almost an entire mile, contrasting with the best part of its 16 corners, where the average apex speed gradually winds down to a minimum come the final corner, only to erupt to life on a drag strip. It is a circuit like no other when it presents brilliant racing action. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you to this live broadcast, albeit from circuit side, but in a post-round fashion. And what do we mean by that exactly? Well, the broadcast you're going to be seeing today is live as we speak to you now. This is not scripted, this is entirely live. However, the racing you're seeing did not occur today, or indeed it's not happening right now. It occurred as of yesterday on Sunday, the 6th of July, 2025. We're here to bring it to you live as if it were live via this post-round broadcast. Therefore, on this Monday, the 7th of July, 2025, we do not know currently who takes victory here at Fuji today, nor do we know how all the drivers get on in the qualifying session that precedes, or indeed practice, which is gradually coming to a close in the background, and that means it's as close as possible to a raw live viewing experience for you guys and girls at home. And of course, we do ask that if you are tuning in right now and you happen to know the results, can we please avoid any potential spoilers in our respective chats. But speaking of our chats, we do say hello to you guys and girls tuning via one or two media platforms for your viewing pleasure, both the official UK Sim Racing media channels. Firstly, you could be tuning in via YouTube at youtube.com and search for UK Sim Racing or UKSR. And welcome to you guys and girls there in the YouTube chat, including none other than Krista Halsoy, who we say hello to, who says absolute cinema and delivering the hype as always. Thank you, Halsoy, and I'm very happy to see you there. We also say hello to Zonda Hill and also to Alex Brown. And I hope you're all doing well. And if you haven't said hi, don't be shy. Feel free to say hi. We don't bite here at all. The only biting you're going to see is biting on those carbon ceramic brakes. But if you're not in YouTube, you could of course be tuning in via Twitch, and that's at twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch TV as well. Indeed, we're all inclusive in terms of our platforms. And well, in the commentary booth, you'll have myself for this whole season. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brits in a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I'll be bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds. But speaking of things unfolding, well, we gradually unfold our way through the championship calendar and headed into today. Well, here is the recap then, because after today we have got our mid-season break week. It's quite early this season, it must be said. We're not splitting the season in half, but quite appropriately, given the iRacing 24 Hours of Spa is going to be next weekend, and therefore we want to give our drivers ample opportunity to get themselves set for that, and also give themselves the opportunity to go competing over 10 rounds of brilliant racing in season 15 of our GT3 League. So we're here today at the Fuji International Speedway. But when we do return from mid-season break at some point, well, that will be on the 20th of July, or the 21st of July. We'll bring it to you the day after. All broadcasts for this season are post-round on the Monday after the racing takes place, and we will be returning in the US of A at the Virginia International Speedway, or VIR, for round number 4. And we've got an absolute bumper-packed second half of the season, where we'll be making our way to Italy for Mazzano, to France for Magny-Cours, to Brazil for the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, also known as Interlagos, then back to the USA again for Road America, now with the Silverstone Circuit in the United Kingdom and the Nürburgring Großpreisstrecke that wraps up proceedings in round 10 of 10. And of course, in the second half of the season, from round 6 onwards, we also have the UK Sim Racing Challenge Cup round, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we do get closer to the round. But coming back to the present and where we are today, well, of course, we are here near the city of Oyama in the Sunto district of the Shizuoka prefecture of Japan, one of the most prestigious and indeed beautiful prefectures of Japan. And well, we are here for the Grand Prix layout of the Fuji International Speedway. And a big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their simulator, but also the absolutely fantastic track maps that are contained within it. And well, for this circuit, the two-dimensional image demonstrates the complexity and the variety of corners, and also that absolutely behemoth start-finish straight there, spanning 0.917 miles down to the third decimal point. However, as I drive all the way around here, it is a circuit of contrast. It'll be the charge down towards turn number 1. As they make their way out the opening hairpin, it's then going to be the Kinka 2 and into Coca-Cola corner at turn number 3. An off-camber corner where it's blind on the apex, only to roll downhill, and as they make their way downhill, it'll be into the fast double right apex of 100R at turns 4 and 5. Now it's all about taking the right apex to get to turn 5 as quickly as possible, because in doing so you carry your speed all the way up the hill towards the hairpin at turn number 6, a very wide open hairpin by today's standards. But as the drivers come out of the turn 6 and into the Kinka 7, and it's a flat out run all the way through 300R turns 8, 9 into Dunlop corner at turn number 10. Another hairpin, sometimes it's run without the chicane, but we're running the Dunlop chicane as is the appropriate form of the Grand Prix layout of the Fuji International Speedway. And as they come out of the Dunlop chicane at turns 10, 11 and 12, then it's going to be a rapid charge uphill as we make our way into the lowest speed section of the circuit. Going through turn number 13, another uphill right-hander that's completely off camber, only then to head into a left-hander of net spend at turns 14 and 15, which is even more off camber, and indeed could see many a driver lose the rear under braking if they don't get it right, and expect quite a bit of overlaying from our drivers there if they want to stop the rear from kicking out. But over nets they'll go, one of the sharpest corners and the most aggressive corners in the world. In a way, you could say it's the reverse of the corkscrew from Laguna Seca in terms of how high they've got to rise to apex at net spend at turn 15, only then to come over the crest and then suddenly climb up one more step up the hill into Panasonic corner at turn number 16. Well, there's about 6 or 7 different ways you can do Panasonic corner, and then it's a drag race all the way to the line, and that's what makes Fuji International Speedway so great a circuit. But coming on to our rules for today, because we can't go racing without rules, as is the importance of ruling, and setup wise it's an open setup series with fuel loads restricted to 60% for all races. Qualifying wise, a closed qualifying format shall be used with drivers having 4 flying laps available plus their outlap, and we have recently seen a change to the way tyres are modelled once again. We do have a whole new tyre model for this season in the GT3s of iRacing, but quite recently we have seen an update whereby the tyres will have a little bit more heat in them when our drivers do make the way out of the pit lane, I believe, but most importantly when they make their way to the grid to go racing, even on the formation laps, and therefore the open lap spins we have seen from drivers may be reduced in a fashion for the simple reason they've now got more tyre temperature to start. Indeed, iRacing have been gradually tweaking the model in order to try and make it as realistic as possible to what drivers would experience in a real life race. Indeed, that's why iRacing is billed as the ultimate real life simulator. As for the race itself, the race shall commence via double file rolling start, as is the tradition of the GT3 League. There's one mandatory pit stop for fuel, but changing tyres is entirely optional. Each driver has one fast pair available, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 20 or more instant points. Meanwhile, all race journeys shall be conducted post-race. We also would like to remind you that thanks to our title sponsor, the virtual racing squad VRS, each round we shall be giving away VRS competitive subscriptions to our competitors. And well, in terms of what we're giving away each round, it'll be via 3 separate raffle draws, a 3-month subscription, a 2-month subscription, and a 1-month subscription. And any driver who takes to the grid for the round shall be eligible to enter the raffle draw for each prize, so long as they haven't won it previously. And well, we have had 6 different winners so far, I believe. Let me just double check my notes here. Indeed, we've had 6 different winners in 6 different draws so far in our opening 2 rounds. Could we see our first repeat winner? But remember, we can't have a repeat winner in the same draw, so it would be if somebody's won the 1-month subscription, they'd have to win in the 2nd or 3rd month to become our first repeat winner. And with the best part of 60 plus drivers, you can imagine hopefully we don't see too many repeats this season, but somebody may be feeling lucky. But right now, who is going to be feeling lucky? We'll announce the raffle draw winners after the racing concludes. But let's head back to your circuit and walk you through your schedule for today. Times in British Summertime, it's BST, or Universal Coordinate Time +1, UTC +1, and as we can see in just under 4 minutes time, we'll be heading to that qualifying session. 10 minutes, 4 flying laps. Who will put it on pole in each of our 4 classes, and indeed overall we'll find out then, but we then head to our feature race. 60 minutes as per usual, and well, at 10 past 8 that's where we'll get underway with the green flag on a relatively cool day here in Japan. 21 degrees centigrade ambient temperature, track temperature pushing upwards towards 28 degrees centigrade, and not as much fog this time. We've become accustomed to the fact it does seem to be the UK sim racing tradition of fog at Fuji, but not quite as much fog as we have had previously. Now there is change afoot, not just because of the fog, but also around on circuit at the moment. As we do say hello to Brecht Berings out on circuit, and also there in the YouTube chat. And how can I tell he's in the YouTube chat, even though he hasn't put a message, or he did put a message in there with absolute hype. He exploded full of emojis, but because he was spamming emojis, he has been given a warning by the Nightbot, and we do apologise that for Ruben. We will see if we can tweet that Nightbot for next time out there, because it is being a little bit extreme in its censorship. But I hope you're still with us and you haven't been booted from tuning in, because we're absolutely happy to have you tuned in with us. We'll also say hello there to Anstis Races, or Nathan Anstis there in the YouTube chat. I hope you're doing well, Nathan. And as everybody rolls the way around, what are the changes afoot beyond Brecht Berings receiving what is a warning for too many emojis? Well, the big change that is afoot is the fact we are missing a big name in the pro class, and that was none other than Joe Newman, who dominated the season opener, dominated again at Brands Hatch in the Ford Mustang. And well, where is Joe Newman in all of it? Well, unfortunately, I believe he has been promoted to the elite class, and I don't think he's here today, sadly, although I can't quite see his name on the entry list at the moment. But it does mean that when Newman does come back onto the grid, we presume for the second half of the season, we will be seeing him in the elite class there. He has been deemed to be too elite of a pro in order to stay in the pro class, and we look forward to seeing whether he can take his professional skills to the elite and take it to his elite rivals. And well done on his promotion there. And indeed, it's a big badge of honour when a driver does get promoted from their class, and it just goes to show you that some out there absolute monsters, and Joe Newman no exception. We also do have a new name on the grid today, albeit some of you may be familiar with him from seasons past. Helder Gonzalez has made his way onto the grid for Tractix Racing, and he will be racing in the McLaren 720S Evo in the elite class. And good evening to Helder there on the grid today in the number 43, and we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do. A very popular driver, indeed he's been on the grid for a number of seasons, and he's always able to produce some absolute spectacles out there. Indeed, if anybody remembers the Multiclass League Season 3 only a month ago, you'll remember that this was one of the many LMP2 drivers, and Helder, well, my good lord, he held nothing back, no pun intended there, in the fact he was absolutely vicious behind the wheel of the LMP2, but fairly vicious behind the wheel, it should be said. And we had some absolutely staggering racing from our LMP2 drivers, and this man was right at the core of it, and we look forward to seeing what the Swiss is able to do here today on his debut. Remembering, of course, he has 2 0 scores locked in for rounds 1 and 2. There are 2 drop scores this season, so every point matters from this point onwards for Helder. But can he bring some surprises nice and early on? Well, we will wait and see. But we have a grand total of 15 elite drivers here today. My good lord, the elite field coming out in full. And well, as everybody gets themselves set, we also do see Milton Tomlinson Dennis there in the Mercedes AMG Evo. We look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do in that. Always a strong driver out there, and always giving it his all. It was a very strange time at Brands Hatch, of course, because that was that big opening lap shunt for turns 1 and 2, where a good portion of the lower end of the field got completely eviscerated from the racing until they made their way to the pit lane, either via tow, alternatively by gradually trundling their way around for a fast repair. And it definitely shook up the field, and we'll tell you a little bit more about the story and how the classes stand when we do head into qualifying. Speaking of which, it is time to head into qualifying, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, our 50-minute practice session is up, or drivers will be called into the pits, and we head into qualifying then, and we'll be right back to see who will put it on pole. And we return, ladies and gentlemen. 10 minutes. It's go, go, go for all of our drivers as they pile their way out of the pit lane as quickly as they humanly can. And because it's a closed qualifying session, every driver has an isolated instance of the Fuji circuit, which they can use to their utmost. Now, as they make the way around, what can we expect here? Well, we need to talk a little bit about the championship coming into this round. In the elite class, and the fact that we did not have Daniel Stasuk on the grid last time out at Brands Hatch, but he's back here today in his full glory, where it means the NJB performance driver has dropped some key points, and Stuart Reynolds is now your championship leader following his first podium of the season. However, we have to keep in mind the top 9 in the elite class, they are separated by only 19 points. Indeed, that's not even worth a 7th place in terms of finishing positions. If my mental maths is correct, it'd be 30 for first, 28 for second, 26 for third, 24 for fifth, 22 for sixth, and and then, of course, 20 for 7th. So indeed, a 7th place would immediately enable you to leap all the way ahead of that 19-point deficit. And right now, Daniel Stasuk is, while there's drivers out there, he'll be very keen to try and make an even bigger impression today after he really set the time and tower light all the way back at the Daytona circuit in the season opener. So elite class, it's wide open. And speaking of Stuart Reynolds, where is he out there? Well, we are going to try and find him very shortly if we can. And here he is in the Ford Mustang, and the Fury SimSport driver there. Well, right now he'll be looking absolutely furious, no doubt about it, in a V8 5-litre machine that'll be very strong on the straights, and we can expect also quite comfortable in the corners. Indeed, that was the thing that Joe Newman and all the Mustang drivers, including Stuart Reynolds, all demonstrated at Brands Hatch, is the fact that whilst this car is considered to be very bulky through the corners, it by no means is a boat through them. It can do them very well. But that's the elite class. In the pro class, well, we have had 2 dominant displays from Joe Newman, so what that means is now that we do have Ryan Davies effectively, when the points are adjusted, leading the way coming into this round, albeit we really do have a very close top order in the pro class, so therefore we can't say that anybody is really leading the way in the absence of the man who is dominating proceedings. So it's a quick reset for the pros, and therefore somebody's going to need to assert their dominant state, and if nobody can, that means we head into a mid-season break with a lot of question marks over the pro class. And again, we're not going to complain about those, and Daniel Stasuk is one of many who could make a big impression. The man everyone will be hoping can make a big impression, particularly for an NJB performance supporter. Well, no, in fact, he's a DDK sim racing team supporter there. Let me get my teams correct. I do apologise. Well, Brecht Berings is going to be the man who'll be very keen to try and put a bit of a big stamp on this, because he was the man who looked very strong at Daytona until a big mistake cost him at Daytona, and last time out at Brands Hatch, it didn't quite work out the way he wanted it to either. So therefore, he'll be hoping that this time, in the third time of trying, he can really land a big result. However, in the AM class, well, from one member of the Berings family to another one, we do have Brecht Berings here, and he was the man who led the way at Daytona. However, he's not the man who leads the way coming out of Brands Hatch. That has gone the way and to Niel Kenyon, who had an absolute rampant run to victory at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, and Niel Kenyon, as a result, now leading quite nicely, albeit he's only 4 points clear of the remainder of the top 4, so therefore he's got to keep in mind that right now every point truly does matter. And in terms of who's close with him, it's Cranleigh-Swash, Brecht Berings and Daniel Pais. And speaking of Cranleigh-Swash, where is he out there? Well, here he is in the Ford Mustang as he makes his way on down, and as he does so there, the American engine roaring on by for Pigeon Racing, and he will be hoping that he can potentially lead his way into the championship, because Cranleigh-Swash has been one of those drivers who over the last couple of seasons has gradually improved little by little, but those improvements are getting more and more noticeable by the lap and day. And in the rookie class, let's not forget our rookies. Well, they all had a chaotic race start. Indeed, it does seem as though so far for the rookies, Daytona and Brands Hatch, really, you could get a t-shirt for the rookie saying I was in the rookie class and I survived Circuit X, because that's the way it's gone, and that's not to be unfair to them. Indeed, accidents happen in racing, they happen at all levels, but sadly for the rookie class, at the back of the field, typically where their drivers were qualified, that's why they're rookies, because they're lower on pace. Well, they've been the ones who've had to come through the scene of the instant and really go on through that and hope they haven't been caught up in the mop. And well, in the end, PJ Alvarez is now the man who leads the way in a rookie, albeit he's not out there at the moment, and I do believe, therefore, we might see him go to the grid. And well, I didn't get the opportunity to check the penalties that came out of Brands Hatch, and I do apologise for that, but I suspect some penalties could be playing into the hands here. But elsewhere in the rookie class, what we can also tell you is that Pavel Brus is not too far behind him, and well, Pavel is not on the grid today, unfortunately, missing this round, so therefore he's not going to gain any momentum. But everybody will be keeping their eyes on this man, the man from the wrong stuff, who had all the right stuff at Brands Hatch, because he took his first, well, long-awaited series win last time out at Brands Hatch, and he did it in style in the McLaren. He was faultless. He really was a force of his own in that McLaren, and well, can he make it 2 out of 3 today in terms of the rounds and potentially start to build up a championship lead? For all that and more, well, we're only 5 minutes away from seeing how qualifying concludes there, as our overlay does briefly refresh itself. I do apologise there, that's something out of our control. I believe that might be an internet server just being flicked over at the moment, and hopefully it will calm down shortly, otherwise we will have to go to contingency measures, but we hope not to have to do that. But how is qualifying going in as our drivers make the one to their third flying laps? Well, at the moment at least, it's Pavel Dolzal who's the fastest man out there for Paceworks Esports, and he is only 13 thousandths faster than Daniel Stasuk in the Acura, as Sam Derbyshire of the Elite jumps up the order as well and moves up into third. But perhaps the bigger question is, how do they all fit into the overall jigsaw picture? And here is the overall top 35 in qualifying, and as you can see there, the top 3 with the man who took Elite victory last time out. Alberto Gravilli, the Effect Simulations driver who really just ran away with proceedings. Well, as he makes his way on around here, well, right now he puts himself into second, only 0.02 of a doll's hour's time, and therefore he's going to be feeling quite confident with regards to the pace he's bringing to the table. Now, we do have an opportunity, in fact, to take a look back at the stewarding from last time out. We do take a quick flick through there, and in terms of the penalties that came about from Brands Hatch, well, the big ones happened to be in terms of what was several penalty points being awarded to certain drivers, and no such points being awarded to BJ Alvarez there. That was the main one I did want to check, just to see whether there's anything with regards to a potential qualifying ban in effect, but not so. I think he's just having technical issues getting the car out of the pit lane, so therefore if Alvarez isn't able to make it to the grid either, that is going to be a big hammer blow. But we did have a few penalty points awarded to drivers there, but everyone out in qualifying, and well, everyone looking to score some big points, no doubt about it. As we do say what is there hello to Simon Bamber, who says moin, and good evening to you, Simon, I hope you're doing well. And he says the fog makes it amazing, with a little bit of sarcasm. Well, to be fair, come fog, come sunshine, well, we can always see our drivers out here, and we've got all the data to try and keep track on where they are at any given point out on circuit, and we'll do our very best to. We're getting accustomed to the Fuji fog, no doubt about it, and depending on the time of year you do visit Mount Fuji, you will find there is a lot of low-lying scenic fog out there, and indeed the clouds do come quite low, because it's quite a high peak, albeit there are different parts of Japan where in fact you can be looking across a bay, and I can't remember the name of the bay, but you will be practically looking across 3/4 of the way up the height of Mount Fuji in terms of where the cliff top you look over to the other side is, and you can see Fuji circuit from there. But enough of what is a bit more of a tourist direction, and focusing our direction now on the driving. Well, as we do see Brecht Berings here, the DDK Racing Team driver, making his way on around. Well, he's currently the fastest of your AM drivers out there, and well, keeping his head down, but looking good as he does. And with 2 minutes left on the clock, well, he is going to keep on pushing forward. Now, you may be noticing that some drivers as well are running different cars today, and that is due to the recent update to the cars with regards to the additional update to the tyre model, and also some balance of performance changes that have come. Most of them have just been to bring a little bit of parity to the cars in terms of, top end speed, which is quite appropriate given we're headed to Fuji, in the fact that we do need top-end speed for more of our drives down that start-finish straight. But what it has done, it has given everybody the opportunity, as per the UK Sim Racing rulebook, established very much so all the way back in the year of 2022, if I remember correctly, the official book coming out on what was a GitHub book. And, well, it was established, and one of the key rules in there is there's a balance of performance change midway through the season. You do get the opportunity to change your car at the next round only. That is the next round after the balance performance change, not the next round you participate in. So therefore, a number of drivers have changed cars, and a number of drivers who couldn't make this round today were also considering changes cars for when they do return, and that is enabled to assure a level playing field. But as we come to the end of qualifying, well, Daniel Stasuk has moved his way to the top by 4.5 tenths over James Armstrong. My good lord, Armstrong's lap's impressive, and then Daniel Stasuk simply said, well, hold on everybody, I'm going to do a 38.3. That is a monster lap, as Brecht Berings goes even faster, moves up to 16th, then drops to 17th, as Simon Bamber catapults his way up into 13th, and all the way down in the rookie class, well, currently it is the story of Simon Cheshire, who's 32nd overall, and, well, he's very much clear of the rest of the field, because then it's 2nd through to 7th, in 35th through to 40th, and that is Richard Jones all the way through to Jordan Jones, and between the two Joneses, I don't believe they're related, are John Davies, Thomas Helmer, Christopher Bates, who you see right here now, Steve Hughes, and that is their order. But with 15 seconds left on the clock, qualifying's practically at a close. I don't think Mr. Bates here is going to be able to get to the line in time. He'll get out the final corner, but I don't think he's going to make it. And, well, also there, oh my good lord, well, Ruben Berings, I think he's taken a bit of inspiration from the performances of Joe Newman, because he's put himself third on the overall grid in the pro class. Well, that's qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a look at how they all line up for our one and only race today. And here we go to the grid. So after our qualifying session, all the laps are accounted for. It's NJV Performance's Daniel Stasuk who has taken pole position. The German driver there with an incredible lap, a 1 minute 38.302. 4 tenths faster than what anybody else could achieve. And in terms of anybody else, the best of the rest was James Armstrong for Brabant Motorsport, lining up second on that grid. Well done to him, and indeed having to try and keep his rival honest. And then it was Ruben Berings, the pro pole sitter, saying to himself, with Joe Newman moving up into elite, now I'm going to replicate him, and starts third for DDK with Race Anywhere. And, well, I think Ruben after that one's going to be thinking to himself, oh lord, have I now got myself promoted to elite for round number 4? Well, I'm sure the stewards will have a think about that one if they so deem fit. But from the Belgian driver, it was then Austin William Campbell Campbell, who took 4th for Effect Simulations, ahead of Niels Bakard for NJB Performance. James Powson completes your top 6 there for Paceworks Esports, ahead of his teammate Pavel Delzal. Where you find Powsland, you'll find Delzal, it would seem. And then we have Sam Derbyshire starting 8th for DDK with Race Anywhere, and there's Alberto Gravilli for Effect Simulations and Milton Tomlinson Dennis for World of Racing with STR Motorsports, who complete your top 10. Outside the top 10, we then have Best of the Rest, Fury Sim Sports, Stuart Reynolds. With the Championship leader Elite class, he'll need to move forward if he wants to maintain it. Second in Pro class, Daniel Shilcock. He starts 12th for Tractix Racing, ahead of Simon Bamber for Effect Simulations Carbon. Jarrett Lee starts in 14th for Pacework Esports after a frustrating day at Brands Hatch. Can he have a better day here in Fuji? With then Casper Brotner starting 15th, third of the pros there for Old Dudes in Cars, and he's in the company of fellow pro driver Xander Hill, who starts 16th for Tiki Simsport. Brecht Berings lines up on and pole position for DDK with Digital Motor Art. Well done to him. And alongside the Belgian will be Krista Halsoy for Track 6 Racing. From the Norwegian to the Swiss, it'll be Helder Gonçalves on his debut for Tractix Racing, ahead of Daryl Norquette for Racing Forces, who complete your top 20. And then outside the top 20, we've got more to come. It's Tom J. Western for DDK with Digital Motor Art, and Jack Barker for Made for Racing. They line up on row number 11. Row number 12 will go to Giles Philipperts for DDK with Race Anywhere, and James Ibram for Effect Simulations Carbon. Well, then Darren Sharples for Old Dudes in Cars starting 25th, ahead of Sean Cranleigh-Swash for Pigeon Racing. Nathan Enstis for UK Sim Racing Hill starts ahead of UK Sim Racing Stuart's James Connolly, and then completing the top 30, Casperton, Stead the Privateer, ahead of fellow privateer Nathan Foster. Outside the top 30, we then come to 31st, Niel Kenyon for UK Sim Racing Price, ahead of Simon Cheshire, I should say, who is your pole sitter there in the AM class. Well done to him for Speed Designs UK. That's his maiden pole position of the season. Can he convert it into victory? We will see for the rookies. Then it will be Simon Oldfield, the two Simons, literally next to each other, who've hearted driver starts 33rd, ahead of Matt Edmondson for UK Sim Racing Hill, and then it will be John Davies, he'll be joining Richard Jones, who starts in 35th there for Science Steady Racing, and John Davies starts 3rd in the rookie class for the wrong stuff, just behind Jones. Then we're going to have the pairing of Thomas Helmer, who starts in 37th for NLK Racing, ahead of Crystal Bates there for LLA, and then we do have Steve Hughes and none other than Jordan Jones completing a top 40 for UK Sim Racing Price and the Privateer outfit. Then behind them, to complete your starting order, we are going to be having what will be the combination of Dan Oliver Fox, the privateer, ahead of Rob Windsor for UK Sim Racing Stuart, and then it is going to be Alistair Murray for UK Sim Racing Hill, ahead of Alex Brown for Sloan Steady Racing on row number 22, with row 23 going to Darian Giacovelli for Swazi Gold, ahead of Simon Hartley for DWR with SimCoach Racing Setups, and then the final row of the grid, BJ Alvarez for Push the Standard, ahead of Stuart Pearson for Sloan Steady Racing. Well, the field is all set, ladies and gentlemen, and that formation lap is almost to a close. So you know what time it is. It's time for us to go green flag racing once again here. And, well, without further ado, as they make the way down, we await for none other than Daniel Stasuk to take us to green for 60 minutes of racing action. As the safety car peels away, Stasuk controls the field. And it's lights out and away we go then for 60 minutes of racing here at Fuji International Speedway as Daniel Stasuk gets a good start, but look behind and there you see James Powsland immediately capitalising on a bit of a sleepy start there for Ruben Bearings. Down towards turn number 1 they come, and as all the field makes his way into the braking zone here, everyone taking it nice and easy it would seem for at least the opening braking zone. It's always a spot of contention here as they all roll them down and through. Jack Barker there making a bit of an early progress and clears the field as we've got a car around, and I believe that is going to be one of the DDK Racing Machines. I think that's Tom Weston who's been turned around, but the majority of the field there separate and as a result avoid the carnage. However, looking to the rookie field already, Richard Jones has leapt his way into the rookie lead. Car goes sideways in front of him. That's James Connolly coming down through Coca-Cola corner, but everyone seems to have survived. We've got a car off there in the rear of the pitch. I believe that might have been Jordan Jones at a bit of the moment. No, it was not. Couldn't quite see who that was, but Thomas Helmer's had to tow to the pit lane due to an incident. We'll try and get a replay of that when we can as the back of the field makes its way into the hairpin, and that's 3 wide behind as Alistair Murray there holds off BJ Alvarez, who goes absolutely razor sharp on the lunge, and Rob Windsor in between the two of them gets absolutely rod. It's the reverse Moses manoeuvre there, and Rob Windsor is the victim, or is he? Because they roar the way on down. Well, now BJ Alvarez and Alistair Murray will go toe-to-toe, and this will be the fight for 10th place in the rookie class, but we will see what happens between them. Just in front, there's been a bit of chaos and carnage here. Oh my good lord, and what on earth has happened there? We've got multiple cars around at the hairpin, and everyone's in a traffic jam here. Nobody knows which way to go, and I think they've been all caught out shy. What Brands Hatch, it was at the hairpin at turn number 2. Here at Fuji, it's the hairpin at turn number 10 that's caught them all out. Well, I'm going to have to try and find out when we can as to what happened there, but still, we've got more racing to come, and it's right at the front of the field where everything is starting to get a bit dicey. As here we can see Helder Gonzalez picking up another place as sideways goes Darren Sharples. He gets it back together there, but let's look to the front, and as we do, one lap complete. And a very chaotic open lap, it's Daniel Stasuk who leads by a whole second or so over James Armstrong, followed by Austin William Campbell, who's battling there with James Powelson behind. But look at Brecht Berings. And right now, the pro pole sitter is trying to say to Powelson, look, I want my fourth place back, don't you mind? And I think Powelson's saying, no, you don't. You've got to go back to the pros, my friend. Well, as they head onwards towards turn number 3, there's going to be no change between them at the moment because Niels Pais is right behind with Pavel Dolzau in 7th, then Sam Derbyshire in 8th. And then we do have Milton Tomlinson Dennis and Alberto Crivelli completing your top 10. A little bit further back there in what is 15th place, we do have your AM leader, Brecht Berings, who had that brilliant start, and well, he's continuing to carry on as much as he possibly can. And well, further behind them, we then do have your rookie leader of Christopher Bates down in 27th place, but he's gained plenty of places overall, and the biggest thing for him is he's absolutely surged through. But speaking of drivers who surged through, BJ Alvarez started from the very back of the field. He's made his way into 2nd place in rookie in 28th already. My good lord, that man has been able to avoid all the chaos, and with it, well, if he decided to start from the pit lane and will start from the back of the field, not set a qualifying time, I think he might have rewarded himself very handsomely there if he wasn't caught up in any of the chaos and carnage. But also Alex Brown's had a brilliant start as well. He started 10th in rookie and he's looking for 3rd. Go on, Alex. Well, he tries to go for it, and John Davis in here is going to go deep, but they both go deep in the end, and Davis is going to rejoin, but Alex is going to go a long way round, and he gets it done there, and with him comes Steve Hughes. So Hughes says, don't mind if I do. Also Simon Cheshire, the man who put it right on towards the front of the field in the rookie class. He was the rookie pole sitter. Well, he's had a slow start, but he picks it all up right now, and John Davis, meanwhile, loses for the place of one battle. He loses 4 places, but Cheshire goes a bit deep coming off of the bend, and as they head up towards Panasonic, well, they'll stay as they are for now, but indeed this rookie class is getting absolutely fiery between them all. And Sean Cranleigh-Swash, one of the biggest losers at the start of the race, 12 places lost, and well, plenty lost also in what is the pro class, and I believe that's 12 places lost currently, but I think he lost a lot more than that before we've seen him recover to where he is, and he's down 2 places at least in pro at the moment, as we've got Giles Philippetts into the pit lane, and I believe that may be with an issue on the car as well. But we look to your class standings as they tumbled away onto lap number 3. We're expecting the best part of 36 laps here over the course of the hour, as we're to understand it, and we'll keep you apprised as to when those laps do gradually trickle on down and the rough time remaining in the race. But we have got plenty of distance to go, no doubt about it. And well, with things starting to settle on down, I think we need to take a look back at some of the open lap incidents between drivers when we did go green flag racing, and well, starting off with what happened to none other than Tom Weston. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go then for some open lap replays. We begin up with the story of Tom Weston. Now, it all went wrong for Weston coming down into the opening hairpin, but how exactly did it go wrong? So Jack Barker was behind him, going all the way around the outside, so credit where it's due. And a small tap there from the number 8, the Effect Simulations car, just sent Weston around. The lightest of taps in the end, but that's all it takes, and the rest of the field had to fan its way around him. Now, I get the feeling that Sean Cranleigh-Swash in all of that got caught up. This was the on-board from Sean Cranleigh-Swash at the time. What exactly happened here? Well, he's looking in front. You'll see Weston suddenly goes round. The Pigeon Racing Drive stamps on the brakes, gets the tap on the rear, a gentle tap with the Pigeon Racing Drive losing all those places, and a small tap there as well from the Corvette Z06. Simon Oldfield got caught up in that as well, so it was a bit of pandemonium between them. And then we took to the exterior here, and well, Sean Cranleigh-Swash's woes getting even worse there, as he did have a couple of rookies cut up his inside. Now, we also had another incident separately. This was Thomas Helmer on the open lap. Now, I believe Helmer was in the blue Corvette, unless I'm mistaken. In fact, I am mistaken. He's in the what is multicoloured Corvette. They're not the UK Sim Racing one. Oh, goodness me, that's a big shunt, and losing the complete nose of that car. That's why he had to tow to the pits in the end. We also then did have a big incident for none other than Simon Oldfield and Simon Hartley coming through Coca-Cola. Well, this was Simon Hartley there. He ended up getting shafted by tapping onto the back of Niel Kenyon, and subsequently we saw what happened there off the back of him. So I think we've got to go a little bit further along before we saw what next happened. And here we go then to what happened to James Connie on the opening lap. This was side by side with Niel Kenyon coming down towards the Dunlop hairpin. Now, as they went into the corner, he's going to go in very hot here, is Connie. He misses braking point entirely, goes to the inside, and if it weren't for the Ferrari, the 159, we wouldn't have had the domino effect. Everyone escapes one way, then they look the other way. Some drives decide to try and make the corner. Jack Barker gets caught there on the bollard. I don't know how he's managed to achieve that. I wonder if we can find out how he's managed to achieve that. That's rare to do something like that. I suspect he's been aided on his journey there, but that explains why we saw absolute chaos at the corner. Now, what exactly happened to Jack Barker at the time? Can we find out? We are going to try to here. Here's the replay then. We're catching up with Jack Barker now as he made his way down in towards the hairpin, and the made for racing Acura that had done very well at the start heads onto the brakes, rolls his way in towards the hairpin here. Looks like nobody around him at the moment. Does go a bit deep, comes through the corner, runs out a bit of space, gets the brakes on, does very well there to avoid the contact, and just loses the rear, I think, where he's had to really overstress the rear of the compound. Reverses, oh no, and that is very painful because that bollard there, where it's absolutely full of water, is very heavy, and that's hit on the front left suspension. I wouldn't be surprised if that Acura is now not in a very happy place. But that was just the opening lap full of chaos, and well, we had a bit more chaos on lap number 2, but I think for the most part we're clear of it, and we're going to return to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. So as we return to your live racing, we've still got plenty more to come, and that was all the chaos and carnage of the open lap there. And well, now we've got to carry on our story because we are already on to lap number 5. Such is the amount of time we spent dissecting the open lap major instance. We always do miss a few there, but right now Daniel Stasuk is still flying away off into the distance as he puts another lap to bed very soon. And James Armstrong is now 1.3 seconds back, and that doesn't sound like much, but given the fact that right now you're looking at 2 very strong drives in the elite class here, and James Armstrong is no stranger to winning in the UK Sim Racing Series. Indeed, he's a multi-time champion, and indeed a very fast champion at that, and has made his father Rob Armstrong, if I remember his name correctly. They used to be on the grid together for several seasons. Made his father very proud, and the Brabham Motorsports driver absolutely ferocious to the bit as he roars his way down the start-finish straight. But you can see the top 2 are definitely starting to clear away, as Austin William Campbell, meanwhile, your third place man, over and in the lead, as James howls them for close company here. And well, the Paceworks esports driver is probably just trying to work with his fellow Mercedes driver here. There are 2 different teams, but I think it's their mutual benefit of, if you work with me and we work together, we can move forward together. And that's their plan, because they want to try and catch up to Armstrong and not fight each other too hard. But speaking of fighting, that is Milton Tomlinson Dennis. He didn't get the memo about working together with Sam Derbyshire's Corvette, and the Mercedes driver up the inside there. Well, Derbyshire's going to try and come back at him here into Coca-Cola. You can go too wide, but you've both got to be wary of each other. It's brilliant racing between them, but now Tomlinson Dennis on the inside here. You can see Stuart Reynolds watching from behind here as the flames spit out the rear of the Corvette. Up the hill they come then, and in towards the hairpin. Derbyshire's still there. He's absolutely glued to that line. Brilliant driving from the two of them. Great racing respect being shown. Alini and Derbyshire will get the better exit initially, but now the Mercedes can get the grunt down here. 6.3 litres of V8 absolutely charging all the way down towards the hairpin. Derbyshire tucks in, and here comes Reynolds. He's been waiting for the opportunity, and it's America and American action here, and it's not the Civil War. It's the battle of 2 manufacturers as they come on through the chicane, and in the end Derbyshire has to go defensive to keep Reynolds at bay, and does a brilliant job in doing so. And Stuart Reynolds, ever the opportunist, he's thinking to himself right now, okay, he knows what I'm up to, I can't make that happen again. What I can do is stay ever present in his mirrors. And as they roll up the hill, well, right now for Stuart Reynolds, you can imagine the fact that he's got very little visibility of the corners in front of him. This is muscle memory at this point, because he'll be glued to the back of that Corvette, and that Corvette is going to obscure the majority of the apexes and braking points, given how close he is. But they roar the way onto the start finish straight, and now it's going to be V8 chasing V8 chasing V8. Well, that's 24 cylinders all absolutely fired up here, heading up towards the maximum RPM as they head on down. We're so close between these 3 right now, and they're only fighting for 7th in elite class, but they're putting on an absolute show here, and we can't fault them for it. Well, down they come then towards turn number 1, and Reynolds in 9, he can't go for the move. He's going to have to wait, and Derbyshire the same as Tomlinson Dennis, just holding his line, and around and onwards they go in towards another lap. Heading onwards, and from them we look a bit further down the order, because Nathan Foster here, well, right now he's going to try and work his way on past Darren Sharples, the pro driver for the Simcoach team. Right now very eager to get on past the AMs around him, and well, he's battling with the man who's second in AM, trying to go around the outside into Coca-Cola. That's not easy to do. He'll need Sharples to back off if he wants to get it done, but Sharples says no, you don't. And the old duty cars driver here is going to be insistent, but Foster in the end gets back to the inside, and Sharples doesn't fight as hard as perhaps if they're in the same class, but he definitely put up a bit of a fight there, and he's going to tuck in behind with Nathan Anstis getting closer and closer in the UK Sim Racing Corvette. Lovely colour on that car, it must be said, and out the corner he comes. Now Anstis looking for an opportunity here. He's going to try and sweep around the outside of 300 as they head down towards the hairpin. Will he be able to find the move here? I don't think he's going to, unless he's going to beat the Sharples on the brakes, but beating the McLaren on the brakes isn't easy, but Sharples are going to go deep, snatches the car there, and Nathan Anstis in the end just goads his rival into a small mistake, and well, that mistake's going to prove costly. Now Sharples will need to try and come back at Anstis in the fight for second in AM. They've still got plenty of time to do so, but brilliant consistency there from Anstis, just getting into Sharples' head. As from them, we're looking further down the order, and Stuart Pearson for Slow and Steady Racing. He's trying to pick his way past John Davies here in the alternate covered BMW M4 for Slow and Steady Racing. Their typical colours being what is the white with a blue inflection, but John Davies there gets a lot of power oversteer on the exit of the hairpin. That's going to cost them the place, and also let James Conley through. But right now Stuart Pearson running the alternative livery there with the turtle on the side. You could almost say it's their away kit. But heading up the hill and in towards turn number 15, well, we're going to put away the football funds because otherwise somebody will soccer him to me. And as he heads up the hill and in towards turn number 16, I also try and put the dad jokes away as well where I can. But well, we'll have to wait to see whether they do leave this broadcast anytime soon. But from Simon and Hartley here, he's still got a bit of way behind from Jordan Jones, because we stay transfixed on the rookie class right now. And as we can see there, Jordan Jones ever present in that Porsche 992, albeit the Porsche not the fastest on the straights, and you can see there in the body language of the two cars, in fact that gap is getting bigger between Hartley and Jones. It's not getting shorter, even though Jones has all the slipstream in the world and Hartley has very little of it by comparison. However, that's because that Porsche most likely has been set up for the corners. There are plenty of them here at Fuji, and we can see that immediately as he looks to get closer to Jordan Jones. As we see Rich Jones over the back of Rob Windsor, and well, now for Jordan Jones, how much closer can he get? Will he ride on board here with a privateer? We're about to find out as he roars his way through turns 4 and 5. We can expect he's going to be glued to the apex at turn 5. Interesting lift off the throttle there. He doesn't have that much confidence over the front end in medium speed to high speed corners. I suspect he's probably worried about the rear coming loose because of the dirty off the back of that McLaren. Perhaps would have been glued to the throttle a little bit more by comparison. I think the 58 driver just got to believe the car's got the grip. Alternatively, if the aero balance is not set up right, then he will be worried about the fact with the aero wash off of that McLaren, it's going to make that car very unstable with higher speeds. As side by side in front, that is Brown and Jones going absolutely toe to toe. And well, we stay looking towards these two BMW drivers, and Richard Jones in the end up the inside his teammate running the special Japanese livery there. And if anybody does know, by the way, in the YouTube or Twitch chat, the infamous painting of the waves, do feel free to let me know the name in there, because that's on the side of the car, and also on the side of Alex Brown's car isn't a set of waves right now, although that is a tsunami of damage, and that's Simon Hartley and Jordan Jones and Darren Giacovelli all piling into the scene of the instant. And Alex Brown, well, I think he might have been touched there in terms of the contact with Simon Hartley, I'm going to take a guess at, and well, that has absolutely winded Alex Brown's race, and well, I wouldn't be surprised if that car's going to be gradually making its way now back up to speed, but I think he'll be asking himself, when can I get it into the pits? Because that was a nasty knock to the side coming out of next bend. Well, it's brought him all the way down to 9th place in the rookie class, but he's back behind James Conley here, and he's got a bit of a lifeline, so he might be able to use this McLaren and to get himself back in the hunt, albeit I think he's looking at the inside of Conley there, and well, in the end, I think that's more just to bleed off the speed and prevent himself from getting an overspeed under braking, as we do see there Darren Giacovelli having a very poor hairpin. He's going to let Conley on through, and now will Brown go for the move here, or will he wait? I think he plays the patience game here. He does. He's going to tuck in behind and let Giacovelli take the position as they head in towards turns 4 and 5. But if all the drama's happening on back here, well, let's take a quick look then at exactly what happened to Alex Brown and what sent him sideways. And here is the replay, ladies and gentlemen, as we take a look for a brief moment. In fact, that is going to be Giacovelli down the pressure from Brown. We may not cut to that replay straight away. Indeed, our director just stopping it in time, and will Brown trying to come back here, and will he go for that move? We'll bring the timing tower back up for a brief moment. Let's not run away from racing action when it could potentially unfold at any moment. And well, in the end, Alex Brown close, but not close enough there to try and find the move on Giacovelli. And well, meanwhile, that is going to be side by side, and that's a bruise in there, which for Simon Hartley losing out, coming through the hairpin into the chicane, and Jordan Jones has run away. But meanwhile, James Conley gets between the two. Giacovelli's going to be out the inside. He's going to go for it here is Giacomelli. That's brave, that's bold, and well, it's smart because he's made it work as Darren Giacomelli up into 7th place in rookie. Simon Hartley's not too happy about that whatsoever, flashing his lights, but I think Darren afterwards will say, well, you snooze, you lose, and I can imagine that right now Simon Hartley will just need to calm himself down a little bit. I think there's been a little bit of a moment just before that happened, but Giacomelli not wasting an opportunity there, and sometimes when you're this closely matched, you've got to be an opportunity taker. You've got to throw them, roll the dice, and well, the gamble has paid off. But with that, we are now going to take a look back at what happened to Alex Brown only moments ago before more crazy racing action unfolds on our screens. Now, this was only moments ago for Alex Brown, heading up the hill at the time chasing his teammate, and we're under brake. He taps the rear of his teammate, goes around as a result of that, and well, Simon Hartley wouldn't have known in the time that it took to start seeing that BMW get overslowed behind the other Slow and Steady racing car. That was literally a domino effect there, and well, I can understand. I think afterwards, Richard Jones and Alex might have had a little conversation. I think Alex is going to say, I'm sorry I tapped you on the rear, and I think Richard's going to say, that's okay, but what happened to your car? And we'll be able to tell the story there with the replay as well. But back to live racing we go. So as we come back to it, well, in our rookie class, they're not stopping the fight at any moment. Alex Brown is ahead of Simon Hartley, and well, here comes John Davies looking one way, here comes Hartley looking the other way as well. He's going to go offensive to be defensive. Brown goes deep, and as a result covers off the inside line to turn number 11. Simon Hartley on the outside, back to the inside he goes, and John Davies here is looking left, he's looking right. Well, you can imagine right now you'd mistake him for a boxer with the amount he's bobbing and weaving around Hartley's rear, but right now he can't land a blow, and as they head up the hill in towards next bend, well, now he's going to get caught up behind. Here comes Stuart Pearson out of the woodwork, and Pearson says, okay, it's my turn to play, but he's not going to get any closer there as they head up towards Panasonic, and up the inside Pearson comes Matt Edmondson, who was in the Corvette that ended up in the woes in the open lap. That's the blue Corvette we were talking about, and right now Edmondson trying to pick his way through, but we can't stay absolutely stuck here to the rookies all this time, as otherwise nobody else will get any coverage, so we're going to stay with them down the end of the start-finish straight, because Simon Hartley here is being practically pushed along by John Davies, and well, Davies surely has got to be looking for a move here. He's so close right now, he's sniffing the exhaust fumes there, and well, I'm not going to do my best Jeremy Clarkson impression at this point, but coming on down, those exhaust fumes won't be smelling very nice, but one thing that will smell nice is the taste of a good overtake, and John Davies up the inside there of Hartley, and will take the place and get it done there, move up into 9th place in rookie, as Simon Hartley tries to come back at him here, coming in towards Coca-Cola. He's thinking about it, but I think the dust will settle between the two of them there at long last. Coming on to AM class meanwhile, well, we can see here Sean Cranleigh-Swash has already made his way back up into 5th place in the AMs. He's just ahead of Simon Cheshire, the rookie driver behind, and Sean Cranleigh-Swash on a mission here to recover all the places he lost as he heads up the hill, and doing a very good job at it. It must be said at the moment his next target will be Tom Weston, and Weston is 11 seconds ahead, but pace difference wise Cranleigh-Swash is the faster driver at this point in the race, even in a Mustang that's definitely got a little bit of damage on the front end. You can see that on the front carbon splitter, in fact it's actually lifted up a little bit from its normal position, but as he rolls out the hill right now, the Pigeon Racing driver, he'll keep his head down. His consistency is absolutely brilliant, and that's what's enabling him to make up this time. But let's come from them and into the Pro class, and as we do, well, the fight for third in Pro, it's now fully at a maximum crescendo, because we can see we're riding on board the back of Darren Norquette for Racing Forces. But why is this significant? Because that's Xander Hill behind him for Tiki Simsport, and he's got Krista Houseway in close company as they all make their way on through the Coca-Cola corner. Now a bit of fizz and buzz as they head through 100i. You can imagine that it's going to be the two McLarens ahead of the one Corvette, and Houseway here will be thinking, okay, I've got two drivers in the same car, I've got to be smart here because they'll be evenly matched, and I've got to try and use my Corvette to my advantage. But Darren Norquette right now, all he'll be thinking about is the fact that he can back these guys up, because the next guy coming up 1.5 seconds behind is Daniel Shilcock, and he is the 6th place pro man as we head towards the end of the first third of this race. We're now 20 minutes into the race distance, still plenty of time to unfold over the 60 minutes, but our drivers ahead from right into left and right again. It's single file formation here because they're all matched on pace as they head into the final sector of the lap. And well, Krista Houseway, they're having a small wobble off of the apex of turn number 12. I wonder if that Corvette's sensitive to raised curves or depressions in the curves, because Fuji does have some very unique curve formations in the fact that the curves do have V-shapes in them, essentially to drain the water away from the circuit. But also if you dip a tyre into the V-shaped curve in the depression, it can unsettle the car massively, particularly on a very low ride height car, and it's something that Super GT machines had to be very worried about, and even GT3s is the lower in road height where you can go sub 60 millimeters. But as they head onto the start finish straight, no change at the moment between these three. They stay exactly as they were going onto the lap, but they are close together. But Krista Houseway, they're half a second back, nowhere near as close, and well, I think right now it is going to be one of those challenges whereby for Halsey he'll be hoping where he can get a little bit closer. As there goes Niel Kenyon to go defensive as Hill looking one way then the other, and well, this is only now going to bring them back to Halsey again. No change at this time, or at least for a brief moment, although what we can imagine here is that Hill, he's getting very fidgety there right now. The one thing about Zander, and when he starts to get the bit between his teeth, is it's very hard to stop him from wanting to make an overtake here, and he does it fairly, to give credit to him. But the Tiki Sim Sport driver right now, he's very eager to make an impression, but the problem is that eagerness has meant that Krista Halsey is now caught up, because Hill's not had the best of runs through 100R, and well, Halsey and Shilcock are getting closer, as we do see there none other than Shilcock's car being chased by the very golden Tractics Racing McLaren, the elite driver of Helder Gonzalez. As they roll the way down the hill, Gonzalez will be watching at an arm's length and trying to see what's going to happen between these four pro drivers who are really getting close to each other. Casper Brotner, 3.5 seconds up the road, second in pro cars. We're just gradually pulling away from them, and I don't think he'd be too worried about them at this point. But from them and all the back and forth, the stalemate that's formed between them, we look a little bit further up the order back to the elite class, because your top two in elites, they've disappeared off into the distance. But meanwhile, third through to sixth, they're all glued together right now, and it is James Palsland ahead of Austin William Campbell and Niels Picard, and then Pavel Dozal, who make that top six as they roll the way down towards turn number one. And Dozal staying right behind the Mustang there in the Mercedes AMG. No way through for him. He's just watching and waiting. But I can imagine strategy is becoming a bigger and bigger thought in his mind, as we do say hello there to Jedi John in the YouTube chat, who says, yes, get in me. I'm very happy to have him here today, and I hope you're doing well, Jedi John. And may the 4th be with you. Or indeed, it's been well past May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, I should say. And well, as I try to head up the hill right now, we'll try and keep the Star Wars at a minimum in terms of the jokes there, although we may get one every so often in there if there's the space to do so. But as the driver's coming out and on towards 300R right now, well, we look back to Jarrett Lee. And well, the man who's normally accustomed to high downforce machines, the Paceworks esports driver in a very different machine, chasing after a fellow Mercedes of Simon Bamber. It's Mercedes on Mercedes action here. You don't normally see that too often, to be fair. But as they come down towards the hairpin, right now Lee, as close as he would like to be, I think he'd like to be a little bit more alongside to try and make a potential move. Much later under braking there, and we can definitely tell Lee has a lot of confidence under the brakes. The closing speed under braking there is absolutely monstrous, but also riding the sausage curves like that, that does not help your exit coming out of the chicane, and well, it also feels very nasty on the steering wheel and in the seats of the car. But the Paceworks esports driver here, I think he's just trying to use every little bit of road to really put Bamber under pressure. Lovely bit of pressure coming here from Lee, and the fact he gets Bamber to roll slightly deep out Net's bend, and now Jarrett Lee decides to go deep. This is to try and get as much speed as he exits Panasonic corner. He does it, but does he get it right? Not quite. He takes too long to rotate the car. A lot of understeer crept in there under braking, and as he heads down the start-finish straight, well, right now Bamber will be safe here. He'll be 3 tenths, and these two cars equal. Well, he is gaining little by little, but not enough. But right down in front, that is Milton Tomlinson Dennis looking up the inside of none other than, well, in fact, that is Stuart Reynolds, I should say, going up the inside of Tomlinson Dennis. Let's get them in the right order. And well, as he comes on down, that's Reynolds on through. Good bit of a move there as he makes the progress, and now up they come in towards turn number 3, and well, they will settle the differences. Simon Bamber versus Jarrett Lee. Meanwhile, well, Bamber there parks the car right on the racing line and says to Lee, if you're going to go for it, you'll need to go up the inside. And Lee says, don't be daft, I'm not going to do that. It doesn't quite work out at turn number 3 unless I'm already ahead of you by nose. And these two right now, elite drivers, they know exactly where to overtake each other and where not. So that means they'll be just pushing each other every step around here. And what's interesting to see as well, we've seen so far over the course of the racing today, our less experienced drivers, at least based on the fact they're classed as AMs or rookies, they're happy to try and overtake anywhere at Fuji. Meanwhile, our pros and elites, they're more reserved on using corners such as Coca-Cola at turn number 3 to try and go for overtakes. Saying, no, you've got to be in a very particular position to try and force an overtake at some of the corners here at Fuji. It's not impossible, to be fair. We've seen some brilliant moves, but it just goes to show those different experience levels and the fact that some drivers are a little bit more raw. They decide to go for it everywhere. But that's how you learn, to be fair. You go for overtakes, and one day you're going to find out it doesn't work at a particular place, or the way you go about it doesn't particularly work. But still, if you don't try it, you'll never know. Or as they like to say, if you don't ask, you'll never know. And that is the importance of experience. But from towards the front of the field to a man at the back of the field right now, after his woes at the hairpin, he's still trying to fight onwards. And this is Jack Barker trying to pick his way way past James Connolly for 7th in the AM class right now. We've had 2 retirements in AM of Niel Kenyon and also Simon Oldfield. Commiserations to them, because we're looking forward to seeing whether Kenyon could carry on his momentum from Brands Hatch. And Simon Oldfield as well looks very impressive in qualifying, to be fair. But Barker right now all at the back of Connolly, with Matt Edmondson coming in as reinforcements to the UK sim racing driver here. And I can imagine they'll try and 2-on-1 here to make their way past Barker, but the made for racing driver is not going to be one of those drivers who is essentially going to give up without a fight. But as they all try to work against each other, well, coming out of the hairpin, no change at the moment, and this time Barker just staying behind none other than Connolly and not able to find an ingress, although so close right now. I think he can reach out and touch the rear of the number 46 if he tried. Well, he's not going to reach out there, so he'll be picking up a fine if we're to take the FRA regulations and guidelines. But this on-board camera from the nose of the car, indeed the camera lodged into just underneath where the Acura badge is on the front. Well, Jack Barker right now looking one way, looking the other way, but not the easiest run out of Panasonic. Takes a bit of understeer on exit, and the car just not giving him the exit he wanted to, and therefore he's going to fall back behind for now as they head down the straight. But into the pits has come Rob Windsor and Sean Cranleigh-Swash. As I look out my commentator booth window, Barker may have an opportunity. That Acura is blazingly quick in the toe. My good lord, he's closing fast. He's going to go up the inside here, and I think Connolly's going to let this go. I don't think he's got a response here in that McLaren, unless it's the outbreak around the outside, but Barker's just got to believe here, and Connolly's going to run wide, and Barker will get the job done there, and a lovely move from Jack Barker, using the speed of that the Acura versus the McLaren to his advantage. They've moved up into 5th in AM, but keep in mind Sean Cranleigh-Swash and Rob Windsor have pitted, so therefore this has affected the fight for 7th in AM class, but you never know what could happen until they reach that checkered flag, to be fair, so it's all still to play for. But some great battling between them, even though they're trying to lick up the points at the back of the field, they're not giving up, and that's the important thing. Now, whilst all this has been happening, we have had a bit of drama at the front of the field. James Armstrong, who was running happily in 2nd in the lead, has suddenly dropped all the way down to 6th, and it's not for a pit stop. Something has gone very wrong for Armstrong, and as a result, losing some momentum there as he gets onto the back of one of our lap down cars, flashing his lights there eagerly to try and say to the rookie driver in front of him, can you step aside? And well, the rookie does, and just in time as Ruben Berings comes up behind there, as does Sam Derbyshire, and Armstrong wants to be clear of Derbyshire, because Derbyshire right now are really starting to put on a bit of pace in that Corvette. But I'm rolling off of the hairpin. How exactly did Armstrong get to that position in the first place, I hear you ask? And well, we're about to find out, because here is a quick replay, ladies and gentlemen. And we take a look back then. This was James Armstrong only moments ago, running in 2nd, comes out of the turn 6 hairpin, carries a lot of speed. The car snaps one way, then the other. He fights with it and keeps fighting with it. A knock to the barrier there, and well, it's not a light impact, but Armstrong carried on. Credit where it's due to me. He's just decided, okay, car's into the barrier, get it turned around and get it going again. Well, that is absolutely robotic mentality there, but you've got to be like that when you're racing at the top level, because when it goes wrong, you've got to quickly assess the damage and get back on with the job. And Ruben Berings there flashing his lights and saying to James essentially, can you step aside, I'm coming through heavy braking. But James saying, no can do, I've got a race to win. And that is the difference between the two in terms of why he was still ahead. We head back to live racing. As we do come back to it in just an opportune time here, and this is Armstrong versus Derbyshire. Well, Derbyshire found his way past Ruben Berings, the pro leader who watches behind, and now Armstrong going as defensive as he can here onto the brakes, and Derbyshire's going to try and go all the way around the outside, and through they come, and onwards towards turn number 3, and Derbyshire close, but not close enough, or is he? Will we jump on board here with the DDK with Race Anywhere driver? Cuts into the inside, can he get it done? Not quite in the end, but he is trying to goad out a mistake from his rival. But the thing is, the 666 driver right now, he may have the sign of the devil, and that's why the car's painted red. But right now the devil's in the detail, and James Armstrong is no stranger indeed. If anyone's going to analyse the circuit, know exactly where he needs to brake, even with a car that's wounded after a knock to the barrier coming out of this corner, it's James Armstrong's. Look at that, the McLaren's snapping again. A lot of oversteer and corner exit there, and that initial snap, I should say, I suspect was oversteer translating into a loss of grip from the right hand side tyres as he made his way onto the exit curve and subsequently the AstroTurf, which you can run right out onto. However, it has no grip out there, so you've got to straighten the steering wheel, and Armstrong just wasn't straightened at the time, and that's what led it to the barrier. At least that would be my guess. However, the driver will know the best. Indeed, all the analysts out there will know as well. But Sam Derbyshire right now are really coming alive the longer we go into this race. And this Corvette, and we've said it a couple of times this season, the Corvette Z06, it's not the fastest out the box, it's not the quickest in qualifying, but you give this car a lot of race distance and it goes very well. Speaking of trying to go for a move there, and that would have gone very well if he pulled it off. Ruben Berings, they're trying to poke his nose in, as you may have saw in the rear view video camera inside the Corvette of Sam Derbyshire and trying to take a sneaky cheek up the inside. But as they roar the way onwards towards another lap, they've gone to their 19th turn on the circuit, and we're heading towards where's the halfway point now. In fact, we are effectively about 30 minutes in. Well, Derbyshire looks one way, then the other. He's going all in here, and well, Armstrong makes him have to work it one way, then the other. But Derbyshire will get it stopped. Does he get it stopped in time is the question. He does almost. Armstrong will come back at him now, but it's not a long run to Coca-Cola, so Armstrong's got to have some magic here if he wants to make this happen. But in the end, Derbyshire will take the place. So Sam Derbyshire's perseverance being rewarded, but Armstrong is there with him every step of the way now. And in the fight for the 6th place in the lead, it's Sam Derbyshire who has gained that place after an absolutely brilliant back and forth. And well, has he fully gained it? Yes, he has, into the hairpin. Armstrong too far back. Now, whilst all this is happening in the rookie class, the man who started right at the back of the rookies, BJ Alvarez, yes, your eyes do not deceive you, he is leading up the rookie class, as we do have Christopher Bates into the pit lane. Simon Cheshire is not too far behind in terms of his pit strategy, but he is a long way behind Alvarez at the moment. Alvarez leading the class by 17 seconds and just gradually absconding with the lead of the class by a very good rate of knots here as the number 17 driver at this point. Well, in terms of strategy, is there anybody who could be around? Well, we have had some pit stops for drivers such as John Davis, also for Alistair Murray, also for Jordan Jones and Alex Brown, but I don't think we've got anybody right now who seems to be in the same respective postcode on strategy. I could be wrong on that, but I think Alvarez has just disappeared with this race. And well, if my memory serves me correctly, I think BJ Alvarez is a bit of a Fuji sleeper. I think a couple of seasons ago, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong about this, I swear BJ Alvarez came out of nowhere in one of the GT3 classes. Was it GT3 AM in one of the multi-class seasons? I think it was. But he absolutely ran away with it and completely bucked the trend of results that we'd seen in AM all season and just demolished the field here at Fuji. He loves this Fuji circuit and will absolutely doing a fantastic job about it. But as he heads onwards, well, we look up to the front of the field and we look to the elite class here, and James Palsland in 2nd place. He's got Austin William Campbell and also Niels Picard behind him as they head up the rise, coming out of 100R, and it is right now the trio of V8s, and well, in fact the quartet of V8s, because let's not be rude about the fact that Pavel Dolzal has caught up to it. And I'm not surprised here. I think we're seeing a bit of strategy going on from the Paceworks esports drivers, because Palsland's pace has fallen off a little bit on the last couple of laps. Not much, only by a tenth or two, but it is causing William Campbell and Bakaj to close up behind him. Also, these two have swapped places, it should be noted. Palsland is now up into 2nd ahead of William Campbell. However, the point is that this is bringing Dolzal into this. I wonder where Paceworks are trying to work some magic here, and the fact that Palsland is trying to save some fuel by just driving slightly off his optimum pace. That is causing William Campbell and Bakaj to back onto him, albeit they can save some fuel, and their logic is, well, we save fuel as well. But this brings Dolzal into the fight. So I think the teammates who worked as hard as possible at Daytona to try and get one over Daniel Stasuk, but they couldn't in the end despite strategy. Well, right now I think they're trying to perform a little bit of magic once again, which is to go for another double podium. But to do this, they're having to have their lead driver sacrifice some pace in his race and save some fuel. But look at it on the straights here. This Mercedes from Paceworks Esports definitely has got a lot of grunt down the straight, much like the Mercedes behind. But they've set it up to maximise the speed here and also have good corner speed as well. They've really got the best out of it. Austin William Campbell's there. He's going to go to the inside. He doesn't want to play the game of being sat in the running order. I think he's clocking on what's going on here, which is Paceworks are trying to manipulate strategy to their advantage. This is all fair, to be fair. If the driver behind you thinks you're going too slowly, then they'll simply have to go for the pass at the end of the day. So long as you're not stamping on the brakes midway down the straight or driving dangerously, you can do little things like lifting off the throttle slightly early to save some fuel. That's all part of the natural concertina effects of motorsport in GT3 class racing. But look at Dolzal. He's caught right up to this. This is going to get very interesting. Sam Derbyshire is only 5 seconds behind. If he can find a little bit of pace here, he may get onto the back of this, and he could even get onto it through strategy. We will wait and see. But I think right now the fight for 2nd place in the elite class, that is going to be a very big question that is going to only be answered after they come out the pit lane. The Dolzal goes a little bit deep under braking, almost taps three of them forward in front of him, but doesn't quite do so. And the 734 of Bakaj for NJB Performance will be very happy with the fact it wasn't tapped there, but that was close on tenterhooks. As meanwhile in the rookie class in the pit lane is Richard Jones. We have had your class leader BJ Alvarez come in. He's come back out in 4th place in the class. He's got a bit of traffic in the form of Stuart Pearson, as we're to understand it, so they might be starting to exchange places out there. But the elite battle for 2nd and 3rd right now is going any which way, as there is Stuart Pearson in the number 23, and well, he's going to find himself right amongst the mix. There's BJ Alvarez as well, who has cleared him quite quickly. I think Pearson right now and backing off and respecting the blue flags there and just wanting to siphon a little bit of fuel saving as they head down the straight. And well, as they do, we say hello to Cy Anthony and also there to Sam Carnstream in the YouTube chat, and I believe that's Sam Derbyshire there. And Sam, keep up the great moves in that Corvette. We're absolutely loving to see them. But speaking of great moves here, as it's going to get very close, and they part the seas around BJ Alvarez there. My good Lord! That's absolutely crazy. And I don't think BJ Alvarez knew which way he was going to have to look there, because there we just got to see Niels Bakaj and Pavel Dolzal both say to the rookie driver, okay, put yourself in the middle road, we'll do the rest. And they somehow went around him, didn't take him out, didn't take each other out, still made the braking zone there at the hairpin, all the while Puzzle and William Campbell fighting over second place. That's why they're in elite class, to be fair. If we ever need a bigger definition as to why they're considered to be elite drivers, it's that, because that was absolutely bonkers between them all, and I don't know how they managed to survive it. But I think for all of that, absolutely brilliant driving between them, no question about it. My good Lord. Well, if I ever needed something to tell me that you should never sleep on the UK Sim Racing GT3 League, that is an absolutely brilliant demonstration now. And I can see Cy Anthony already asking the question, how did they survive? I don't know. That is their skill ability. There's no doubt about it. It's absolutely incredible. But as they head up the hill, lap 22 of 36 is about to come to a close, and your race leader here of Daniel Stasuk carries on his merry way down the start-finish straight. Will he pull into the pits this time? The answer is going to be no, but oh my good Lord, we look away for a brief moment, and what was looking to be a very happy battle for second place in the elite class as Sonny ended up on its roof for none other than what is there, James Powsland. What on earth has happened there? We'll have to find out. And this was only moments ago, making his way through turn number 2, surely. Oh my good Lord! That sausage curb absolutely vicious there, and we're quite Austin William Campbell as well. Both of them ended up in woes, and I've never seen one of the sausage curbs there coming out of next bend, launch a car like that, and James Powell in the end being sent to the sky. And, well, we take a look back at what happened to Austin William Campbell. This was his on board. He saw it first. And, well, in the end, Austin William Campbell losing it there just simply through pushing a little bit too hard out the corner, and real tyre life starting to go against him. And by the time he looked back, well, it was Powsland on his roof there. And, my good Lord, an absolute nightmare moment. And James Powsland, who says oops in the YouTube chat there, well, that is a big oopsie indeed. And, well, thankfully, that's in the simulator, not in reality, because as I can imagine, that car would have been the woes. We head back to your live racing without further ado. And, well, from the car park to the pits of James Powsland, his race is going nowhere at this point. We then look all the way to Milton Tomlinson Dennis, and a few elite drivers here will gain places as a result of those yellow curves. And, well, Milton Tomlinson Dennis right now up into 5th in class with James Armstrong right behind him, bearing in mind that right now when we look to the overall top 35, well, in terms of this running order, the top 22 have yet to pit. We've got a lot of pit stops that still need to be taken, but the thing is, nobody at the front of the field wants to pit, and understandably, because they don't want to fall into potential traffic here. We are on lap 24 of 36, as our mathematics has done so. In terms of giving us the prediction, we're expecting a 36-lap race, but right now, all these drivers are just pushing each other onwards, and particularly that top 22, nobody wants to be the first to reveal their hand and head into the pit lane, because whoever does, well, then that's going to open up the door. But I think people are going to be forced into the pit lane soon, as Pavel Dolzal and also Niels Bakaj and James Armstrong, they all peel on in from the top 10, and the 3 elite drivers deciding enough's enough. Jarrett Lee carries on his way, and will the third of the Paceworks esports machines still pushing onwards. We also do have into the pits Simon Bamber, also Casper Brotnan. Helder Gonzalez stays out there, so there's still a bit of an exchange going on. What else is happening further down the order, I hear you ask? Well, in terms of battles, we haven't got too many happening at the moment, although Tom Weston's into the pit lane. He releases Darren Sharples into 3rd place in the AM class for the time being. And, well, I think the DDK Racing Team driver decides, okay, it's now time to mix things up here. And I think the fuel tanks are going to go 25 laps at most, because the fact that a lot of drivers are peeling on in here, this is normally the sign the fuel tank's practically at its limit, and those who have been able to do a bit more fuel saving have just been able to squeeze out one more lap. But it's not always easy, and it's not always optimum to try and get the extra lap. It's optimum in terms of you shortening your second stint, yes, but the downside of it is in the fact that you do have to drive quite conservatively unless you're able to spend a lot of time in the tow. As Underhill tries to run away from Daniel Shilcock, and Shilcock really has been a revelation in this race. He's been silently moving his way up the order in the Pro class, and right now in 3rd in the class, and what is 8th overall. Remember, this is without their pit stops taking effect, so this will give them a bit of a shuffle down the order, but Daniel Shilcock definitely right now making haste here, and the Track 6 Racing driver, well, I think he's channeling a little bit of Helder Gonzalez behind him right now, which is Just take it slow, gradually build up the pace, and as you do, just protect the car, protect the tyres and protect the fuel, and therefore he's going to have a much stronger second half of the race. Remember, they can change tyres in the pit lane, and the tyres are changed at the same time fuel's put in the car, but normally the amount of fuel that goes in, depending on the circuit, means you've only got time to change 2 tyres, so it'll be normally 2 tyres on one side of the car, which in the instance here of Fuji, you would expect it to be on the right. But is Hill going to go another lap? Yes, he is. Underhill's going to go a 25th lap as Shilcock makes his way into the pit lane. So Hill's found some magic to go even longer, as has Daniel Stasuk, to be fair. And he's been leading this race in Acura. He's not had anybody a fuel save with in terms of running the slipstream. So right now, they're doing a fantastic job, those two, of getting the fuel tanks just to go as long as possible. And it is working out a treat. But where will it put them in the whole scheme of things? Well, if your name is Daniel Stasuk right now, the NJB performance driver is having no trouble in maintaining his lap times. He really is just delivering lap after lap, and nobody's able to get near him here. Well, the elite of elites, that is going to be one of the statements of the season following this round, if he's able to pull this off. But still, time will tell, and we've still got the pit stop plus the remainder of the race, as he'll cut up the inside there while the UK Sim Racing machines, and that will be Nathan Anstis, who now puts a lap on and comes to the end of this lap, and surely he's got to come into the pits. Yes, he's immediately beelining over to the right and given a very clear picture, which is the car is out of fuel. I can't go any further, and our race leader will be coming in. He may even lead every lap of this race, so I can't imagine Xander Hill is going to be able to go one more lap after this, unless he's been working some magic in the Tiki Sim Sport machine, and if so, I do want to know what kind of fuel they're using in the Hawaiian team. But still, more from them, and back to the elite class, and Pavel Dolzau, through all the pits, has in fact leapt ahead of Niels Bakaj. He made the change coming into the pit lane, and well, these two are now staying right with each other in the fight for second place, with Sam Derbyshire only 4 seconds behind, and Milton Tomlinson Dennis not too far off of them. And well, from them, with Milton Tomlinson Dennis here, he's had a very good run as the number 192 Mercedes driver, and he's getting close to Derbyshire at this point. In fact, I think Derbyshire and Tomlinson Dennis both could be within arm's reach of potentially chasing down that third spot of the podium in the elite class right at the end. Stasuk's leaving the pit lane already as I look at my commentary booth window, and he's rejoined the race in the lead by a comfortable margin. So Stasuk in a postcode of his own at the moment. And well, where will Xander Hill come out in all of this? Where is your pro class leader in terms of the driver who's completed his pit stops? Here he is, Ruben Berings right now, just ahead of Brecht Berings, the AM class driver behind you. You can see them both in the camera shot there. He'll still be in service. We look to the blimp camera, and well, there it goes, Ruben Berings. Where is Xander Hill? There he is, making his way down the pit lane. He's still got a long way to go, however. I don't think it's enough from Hill, but it's going to get him quite close. Here comes Berings then, on past, so Hill will lose the leader pro, but where does he come out at all of it? And the answer is he's going to be very close here to Casper Brotner. Brotner comes back into second then, and Xander Hill, through going the longest of any pro, going the best part of 25 laps on the single tank of fuel, has moved his way up into third place. He's gained a place on strategy over the race distance. Very well done to him. He's leapt his way ahead of Darryl Norquette, and where Norquette is, you can see him there a bit further behind for Racing Forces, and Norquette will suddenly look up the road and see a Tiki Sim Sport McLaren that has just leapt ahead of him by going far longer. Norquette still got a lot of pace out there, to be fair, and he is pumping in some good laps, but right now Xander Hill really has demonstrated the potency if you go long and you can save that fuel and maintain the pace. But look into your class positions, and there are your top 7s or so for each of the classes right now, and you can see in elite the top 3 is Daniel Stasuk ahead of Pavel Dolzau and Niels Bakaj, and then in the pro class it's Ruben Berings, Casper Rotten and Xander Hill. In the AM class it's Brecht Berings, so the Berings family trying to make it wins in their respective classes, although careful there, Brecht, you don't take those sausage curbs if what happened to James Powson is any indicator, because they'll have you on your roof by the end of the day. But right now the Audi, number 6 Audi here, doing a fantastic job in leading the AM class by 22 seconds over Nathan Anstis, and well, here is Anstis, who right now has a 2-second gap over Darren Sharples, who's just behind him. There you can see Sharples for old duty cars, but Sharples is looking faster by comparison, and therefore I think Anstis is going to do some rear guard action before all is said and done. The rookie class, meanwhile, it's BJ Alvarez, the man who surprised everybody, ahead of Simon Cheshire, and well, ahead of Cheshire by 3 seconds, although Cheshire was the class leader, but BJ Alvarez, through strategy, has moved his way forward, and he indeed has some absolutely demonic pace out there. And Richard Jones, well, he's third place at the moment for Slow and Steady Racing in the rookie class, and a further 20 seconds behind. The top 2 in a rookie definitely running away with this, and Jones meanwhile in a bit of a lonely third place, 6 seconds clear of John Davies, the man who took victory at Brands Hatch. Well, right now looking to make his way into the top 5, and still that'd be a great effort if he's able to pull it off. But with all that, we do make our way back to Zander Hill, who has got Helder Gonzalez close behind him. They're two drivers of two different classes, so therefore this is a fight for overall position. Gonzalez fancying his opportunities, but will he be able to find any opportunity? That will be the question. We will have to wait and see. For they've still got plenty of time. We are on to lap 27, so in terms of time remaining at the moment, if you do the quick mathematics, with the fact we expect to have 36 laps, plus also the best part of what is about a 45-second pit stop end to end, or the quick mathematics would suggest there that we are somewhere in the region, of about 16 minutes left in the race distance, and therefore we've got plenty of time to still see some drama out there. Not that we're wishing any drama, but it's never quite over until they reach that checker flag. And Gonzalez right now, if he was any closer, I think he'd be tapping the rear of Hill coming up from next bend. And you can see that a very different approach to line, goes for a wide cut back there, but a lot of oversteering corner exit. Well, right now Gonzalez already pushing the traction on the rear tyres of that McLaren to limit, and I think leaning quite heavily on that traction control, perhaps even dialing it down a little bit in order to try and get all the power he can. Of course, the lower you run the traction control, the less intrusive it is, but also the downside being that when you do have a moment when you need it, it's not always ready to go. But from them, we look to Jarrett Lee, who's up the inside of Simon Bamber for 8th place in the elite class, and now your top 10 is all elite drivers out there. They have just gradually crept ahead of Ruben Berings, and Berings is on the back of this group because you can see that's Simon Bamber and then Stuart Reynolds, and Reynolds was caught up in that instant that we saw for Palsland earlier on, and also for Austin William Campbell. He picked up some front end damage, and that's why he's been relegated all the way to the back of this group. But right now, watching onwards and still trying to pick up the places here as best he possibly can. And if your name's Ruben Berings at this point, I would imagine that riding on board here with your leading pro driver, he's just going to watch this and I think to himself, you know what, stay with them. And the only time he needs to really consider making a move, given he's 5 seconds clear of Casper Brotner, is if these drivers start to cost him time. And of course, he'll be told that over the radio by his team engineer. But the number 91 driver at this point, I think, can just stay and play the popcorn seat view. He'll be watching the elites in front of him. He's just got to be aware of it in case it gets very dicey between them. And he doesn't want to get caught out. Sparks fired there from the undertray of Stuart Reynolds' Mustang coming over the chicane. Berings, they're running a little bit wide, and we'll have to be careful of the sausage curves. But through the left hand he goes, and out to next bend, and with the best part of a half-second gap, which just gives him a little bit more visibility in the Porsche to be able to position the car well and make sure he takes those natural racing lines here as he puts another lap on the board, and will not too many more to go. But as the flat 6 roars its way up to maximum speed, and up towards 9,000 RPM each and every time it goes to the upshift, we'll just fall back there a little bit. But battles right now outside of the elite class have definitely calmed down for a moment. Or so as I say that, Krista Halsoy says, hey, what about me? Because right now he's chasing after Daniel Norkett for 4th place in the pro class. Indeed, I think he's listening right now, has decided to put on a battle for entertainment. Not that we're going to complain. And well, Norkett and Halsoy both have been working very hard to make sure they finish inside the top 5 of the pro class. But who's going to finish ahead of the other? Norkett going a bit defensive there. I think signaling his hand quite early to Halsoy, which is, if you want it, you're going to have to really come for it. Halsoy will try and work on it little by little as they make the way up towards Coca-Cola Corner. But right now Halsoy there, but not really close enough to think about a potential move at this time. A bit further back, we do have Darren Sharples chasing after Nathan Anstis. This is for 2nd place in the AM class. We'll keep you apprised of that when we can. But in all that, we've got a bit of drama for James Armstrong, who's suddenly dropped down the order. And in fact, he's dropped all the way down to 10th place in the elite class. Something has gone very wrong for James Armstrong. What can we find out about it? Well, here's a quick replay to explain, ladies and gentlemen, but I don't think Armstrong's race is going from good to bad to better. I think as we get the replay, it's going from good to bad to worse. Now, this was the corner where the car snapped loose on him a few laps ago. Is it going to do the same again? It does, but this time it goes around the other way. And I think he was all prepared for it to go one way. Well, brilliantly snatched round there from James Armstrong, very quickly getting it pirouetted. So that's why he's able to get up to speed. You can see the lights flashing there from Simon Bamber, also from Stuart Reynolds. And well, Jarrett Lee had a mistake of his own just before that and dropped on down the order. We head back to your live racing pictures. And as we do, well, there's still more to come between all the drivers here. We're not out of the woods yet when it comes to battling. Ruben Berings, by the way, finds himself all caught up with these elite drivers who are constantly exchanging places in front of him and is now losing time to Casper Brotner. Brotner is now only 4 seconds behind him. I think he'll be getting a little bit worried that advantage he carved out is being reduced. But Jarrett Lee there, well, he won't be minding Berings behind. He's trying to find a way past James Armstrong as Armstrong is inside coming down to the hairpin. 2 wide they come through the kink in towards Coca-Cola. And, well, it's going to be Armstrong on the outside in versus Lee. I don't think he's going enough space to try and go around the outside and backs off there quite sensibly. But Jarrett Lee back into 9th place in the elite class, and he was in amongst Simon Bamber and Stuart Reynolds. But as Armstrong there cuts back to the inside, switches to the left, onto the inside he goes, and Armstrong throws the dummy, tries to sell it, and in the end, well, Lee tries to shut the door hard, and Armstrong absolutely went for that there, and well, depending on your perspective, some would say that Armstrong dived into a space that was always closing. That'd be Lee's perspective. Armstrong would say, well, I sent him the dummy, and in the end he came across me. But definitely absolutely brilliant awareness from both drivers, not for that to end up in pandemonium, but I think both drivers there not quite happy with how that's played out, but Armstrong's got the place off of Lee for now. Lee's back on his inside. His car going around in the rear of the picture. Couldn't quite see who that was, but here comes Lee up the inside. Then he goes all in, and well, now trying to look around the outside of next bend. That's going to be tough in that Mercedes, but if anybody can do it, Jarrett Lee can. And well, it's going to still stay in the hands of James Armstrong at the moment. They are fighting each other absolutely ravenously right now as Ruben Berings has cleared the pair of them, although it goes very deep. They're coming out of Panasonic corner. Ruben, what are you doing? You're being lured right back into the back of them, and James Armstrong says, okay, it's time to swallow the pro up right now as they head on down. And this is going to now require Jarrett Lee to make a decision. Who does he invest his pace in? Does he tuck in behind Berings? Does he tuck in behind Armstrong? Well, he's going to stay behind Ruben Berings at the moment, and he's going to try and pick up the speed. Armstrong immediately now goes to the inside. If free wide, they come down toward the braking zone, and well, it's going to be Lee looking around the outside here, and well, the place they're fighting for isn't that significant in the elite class necessarily, but the significance is it's causing the Pro League battle to suddenly come back alive. The gap to Casper Rotner, 2 seconds now. Ruben Berings has just lost 2.5 seconds in a single lap because he's stuck in a fight with 2 elite drivers who are having handbags at dawn here. But to be fair, we love to see it in the fact they're actually enjoying the battle between the two of them. And as James Armstrong finally clears Jarrett Lee for a brief moment, Ruben Berings now knows that he's got 1.8 seconds between him and Casper Brotner. And Brotner is flying at this point. I think Brotner's seen the fact that he's got the pro leader right in front of him and that Berings is looking vulnerable. But he'll be hoping that Liam Armstrong just fight a little bit longer. He may not know what's caused it, but he'll definitely know whatever's causing it. He'll want more of it to happen. We will see, however, because they come down into the hairpin here, and after this lap we've got 5 more to go. Your race leader has just gone across the line to go on to lap number 32. Daniel Stasuk is really running away with it, and well, in the battle for second place, this is Pavel Dolzal versus Niels Bakaj, and they are only 3 tenths apart. As we take a quick sip of water there to try and bring this one home. Well, John Davis, the full place rookie, gives a little bit of a slipstream to Dolzal, but now Dolzal just pulls the outside. There's Davis backs off the throttle and goes on the brakes nice and early to release those drivers before tucking him back behind them. Great awareness being shown, and then we look back to Simon Bamber and Stuart Reynolds here, and well, that is going to be defensive drive from Simon Bamber. If anybody were to send a message that he's going to defend a position, Bamber sending it very early there to the inside as they were halfway down the straight. So here comes the Ford Mustang of Reynolds looking around the outside. Can he go for it under braking? The answer is he's going to try to. I think he thought about cutting back there. We briefly lose Bamber. We'll have him rematerialise from the ether very shortly, and Reynolds backing off there, not knowing where his rival was going to reappear. But from them, what else is happening elsewhere in the field? With the rookie class, there's no real fight to talk about at the moment. All of our drivers are quite apart from each other, although we are keeping an eye on the battle for 7th between Alistair Murray and Darian Giacovelli, because Giacovelli is closing a little bit on Murray at the moment. More on that, and we can give you an update when we can. But as we do see Tom Weston here chasing after Darren Sharples, well, between them, there's no gap really at the moment, and Nathan Anstis is at the head of this trio. We did say the battle for second in AM class could get quite dicey towards the end, and well, we weren't wrong, because Anstis right now is just about keeping Sharples and Weston at bay, but if he makes even the smallest of mistakes, he's going to have them breathing that down his neck. But coming on down through 100R right now, Anstis putting in a solid job, and that really, as we've said time and time again today here at Fuji, that Corvette strength is the ability to extract pace over race distance. Much like its GTE counterpart in the current iRacing balance of performance, the Corvettes on the simulator definitely seem to have a lot of race pace compared to their rivals, and boy, it's really going under the radar. But I think more be raising an eyebrow and recognising the fact that the Z06 right now really is one of the sleeping chargers around there, albeit Anstis is being reeled by Sharples as they come through the Dunlop hairpin section, and the gap now 4 tenths. Sharples much faster in these low speed corners, as is expected from the McLaren, one of the strongest cars when it comes to direction change. A very quick car, the 777 driver of Old Duty Cars Sharples, and we're at the sharp end of the field right now as he heads up the hill. We look from in front of him to behind him, but a very different line, and Sharples practically chopping off the apex and next bend. Meanwhile, Weston, the Mercedes behind, and he having to go very wide out the corner in order to be able to make it, and that is the difference there. And I think Weston is starting to struggle with a bit of understeer creeping in on that front left tyre. I think the wear might be really building up there. If he didn't change tyres in the pit lane, well, I think that might be now starting to have a bit of an effect. But down the straight they come. 4 more to go as they head on to their 33rd tour of the circuit under race conditions. And well, it's still Ansted holding on to second in the AM class here, but Sharple's putting the personal best, a 40.194 in the second stint of the race. He's definitely just feeling the pace is flying to him. A bit out of the road, Krista Halsoy still ahead of Helder Gonzalez, the 2 Track 6 racing drivers, I think, trying to work together here. And I wouldn't be surprised if over the radio, Helder has been told not to make a move if he can help it. However, at the same time, I would imagine that if he feels though he's got the pace to get ahead and then potentially make a move on Daniel Norquette quite quickly to help Krista out, then he may choose to do so. But they're going to have to be quite quick on the draw with regards to whether they do it or not, because our race leader now is on to lap 34. They are running out of time to try and make some magic work teammate-wise. And well, if anything, Daniel Norquette at this point might right now be hoping the 2 teammates step on each other's toes here. And well, Norquette has got pressure grind, there's no doubt about it. As the fight for full place in the Pro class on your screens, and we're looking back from the rear of the 86 for Racing Forces, the McLaren of Darren Norquette, as Krista Halsoy's Corvette continues to watch, wait and listen. But from them, change of second place in the elite and overall. That is Niels Bakaj up the inside of Pavel Dolzau into the hairpin. Dolzau immediately comes back here, swings to the inside, tries to outbrake the Mustang, can't quite find it. And well, it's a very close attempted move there, but it's not going to work out this time as Dolzau right now stays right with him as they roll the way through the right hand there. And our timing tower decides to refresh itself, enjoy its scenes of battle in action. Well, we'll make sure that's not going to keep happening where we can, ladies and gentlemen. But as Dolzau right now continues to chase, well, Niels in the Ford Mustang at this point, he'll be happy to have got the move done, and now he'll just be hoping that he can bring it to the close. But how exactly did the move happen, I hear you ask? Well, we can get a quick replay of that, and here it is of the move for second place in elite class as done by Niels Bakaj on Pavel Dolzau. Now, this was only months ago, and as we briefly get the replay there, it took a little bit of time to think about it. Well, down into the corner they went, and in the end he went all on to the brakes, and well, it was side by side, a little bit of a door rub between the 2 of them. I think they'll get away with it in retrospect, and that is how Bakaj got the move done there. A lovely move, and well, he kept it into Coca-Cola, even though Dolzau tried to fake him out to the inside there into Coca-Cola corner. Well, the German driver was having none of it. Back to your live racing we go. And as we do, we haven't got long left before we do see that checker flag, because our race leader right now is on to lap number 35. 2 laps here to go, and Bakaj has broken away already from Dolzau. He can see the gap it's opened up. Sam Derbyshire a bit further back in terms of that top 5 elite and overall. Very little between them here as they head across that timeline. And further on back, well, there's still boards to come with Krista Halsoy all over the back of Darren Norquette earlier, but now has Helder Gonzalez just pushing him along and egging him along every step of the way. And I think trying to send the message to him, which is get a move on. I'm still with you, teammate, as I head on down and up towards the hairpin. Well, we will see what happens between them. Rookie class, as we said earlier, no real battles to talk about there. Everything seems to be settled in terms of the top 3 of BJ Alvarez, followed by Simon Cheshire and John Davis. In fact, Davis has found his way ahead of Richard Jones. Something's happened to Jones out there, we're not quite sure, but John Davis has snuck his way back into 3rd in the rookie class, so we'll have to see what happened between them if we can find that out a bit later. But right now, it does seem as though House are getting very close there to Norquette coming out to the hairpin and in towards Coca-Cola, but he's not close enough to think about a move. So Halsoy keeping that pressure on here, and it really is the difference of 2 cars over the lap. The first half of the lap, that Corvette is very strong because it's got a lot of medium to high speed corners. He's going to go for it there, or he tries to. Not close enough. I think you'd be hoping he had a bit more on the brakes, but the McLaren outbraking the Corvette. But the point being, that's where the advantage for the Corvette seems to stop, and now it swings the other way because we're now into the low-speed corners, and that's where that McLaren really does have the natural rotation, particularly here at the Dunlop hairpin into chicane sequence. And that McLaren can just switch direction a little bit faster. You can see it there as they make the way from the right into left. How the Corvette just looks a little bit lumberous by comparison, and he's trying to force a move here. That is very, very tricky to try and do. And Halsoy, I think he recognised that last right. If I go any later there, and if I try to go any further, I'm going to end up sending Norquette around. And Darren Norquette wasn't just going to give the place up there. I think he was going to take a logic right. If you're going to do that, I'm going to close the door gradually, and we'll both go around, and you're going to be the one taken to the steward's room and put in the naughty corner. And Krista saw it coming and went, yeah, I know what he's doing, and I can't get away with that versus Daryl because he knows what I'm trying to do, which I'm trying to go down a move, and it's not going tried to work, but brilliant attempt anyway. But these two both cottoned onto each other in this battle for fourth, and it really is a game of high-speed chess between them. And this is what we love to see up and down the class, when two drivers are so closely matched in two different machines, where balanced performance is keeping them this close together, and therefore the drivers are really having to try every tactic in the little book of overtaking in order to make moves. As Daniel Pais there runs out wide, but as he does so, ladies and gentlemen, well, we've got to come away from this battle, because making his way through the last couple of corners, here is Daniel Stasuk. He has been a revelation today. He wasn't on the grid at Brands Hatch, and everyone was wondering where exactly is the man who dominated Daytona, but he's back today, and from the dominance at Daytona, it is the freedom of Fuji that has led to Daniel Stasuk taking a victory here in the Acura for NJB Performance with an absolutely incredible drive, winner overall in the elite class. And then we will very shortly, well, Crossline has just come second place man and rookie. That will be Simon Cheshire. Well done to him for second place in class, but Niel Kenyon will take home second place in elite and overall here in an absolutely brilliant drive to fight his way through to the run-up spot ahead of Pavel Dolzal, who takes third there for Paceworks Esports. We'll then have Sam Derbyshire. Look at this, a fourth place for the man in the Corvette. The 666 doing well ahead of Milton Tomlinson Dennis, and then Austin William Campbell and James Armstrong was a bit further back. We do have James Armstrong, who comes on through for 7th shortly, but in amongst him, well, we do see Brecht Berings, who comes on through to take victory in the Pro class. Not easy, to be fair, and in the end only by 2.5 seconds ahead of Casper Brotner, the runner-up in Pro. Jarrett Lee and Stuart Reynolds between the two of them. Then it was Simon Bamber and Brecht Berings. It's a Berings double victory here, with Brecht taking victory in the AM class there for DDK Racing Team. Well done to him. And then Zander Hill will come through behind to complete the top three of the Pro class. Second place in the AM class, meanwhile, it is going to go the way of this man, Nathan Anstis, as he comes roaring to the line. And well, in the end, he held off the attacks of both Tom Weston and Darren Sharples. They threw everything at him, but in the end, the Corvette stood the test of the time for UK Sim Racing, with Tom Weston round for your AM top three ahead of a plucky Darren Sharples, who did very well to take fourth in the AM class. And then, well, here's the only rookie driver who finished on the lead lap. He started from the very back of the field, but he ends at the front of the field for the rookies. BJ Alvarez, take a bow, good sir. You really are the master of Fuji when it comes to the rookie class, and what a drive from him. And we must also give a shout out to John Davis, who took third in the rookie class, albeit not on camera, but adding another podium to his championship campaign. Goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a race over 60 minutes today, or 36 laps here at Fuji. Brilliant driving from all the drivers up and down the field. In the end, we could only have one winner, and here was your dominant overall winner. It was Daniel Stasuk. There's your top 35 on screen, and Daniel Stasuk in the NJB Performance Acura. Can anybody stop him? That, I think, is going to be the question now that everyone will take into the mid-season break, particularly in that elite class. But as he rolls his way out of the last couple of quarters, and also we need to give a shout out to Christopher Halzoy, who took fourth place in Pro, and in fact he made the move on Darren Orkett on the last lap. Can we get a move? Can we get a replay of what happened there? I think we might be able to. Give us a brief moment. Yes, we can. Here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen. And well, this battle was coming right to a crescendo at the end, and between the two of them, they made the way up the hill then. Darren Orkett losing the rear under braking through nets, and that will enable Krista Halsall to go for it. Just the pressure too much in the end, and we said at nets bend, under braking, the cars have got to overlay, the rear kicks out, and in the end, Darren Orkett with a spin, losing the position in class, but not any more than that. He only fell to 5th place. Darren Orkett will be kicking himself for that one, but still, flip side of the coin, and Krista Halzoy doing a fantastic job to put the pressure on, and Darren Orkett withstanding it for the most part. There was nothing between the two of them. Well, what a race, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, well, it is now time for us to head back to our live pictures and bring you those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we do return to circuit side, well, let's take you through those race results then. And as we can see, hopefully they will come up on screen very shortly. And here they are, starting with your overall finishing positions after an incredible 60 minutes of racing. And well, we see overall Daniel Stasuk taking overall victory for NJB Performance, a 1-2 for the team, ahead of teammate Niels Kenyon. And then we did have Paceworks Esports Pavel Dolzal completing that top three. Sam Derbyshire was 4th in the end for DDK Race Anywhere, ahead of Milton Tomlinson Dennis for World of Race Racing with STR, and there was Austin William Campbell for Effect Simulations ahead of James Armstrong for Brabant Motorsport. And then came to your first pro finisher, that was Ruben Berings for DDK with Race Anywhere, brilliant drive from him, and then after him, 2 elite drives of Jarrett Lee for Paceworks Esports and Stuart Reynolds for Fury Simsport, rounding off your top 10. Casper Brotner, he took second place in pro, but was best the rest in length overall for Old Dudes in Cars, ahead of fellow Mercedes driver for Effect Simulations Carbon and Simon Bamber, and it was Brecht Berings, your AM winner by a comfortable margin in the end, 13th for DDK with Digital Motor Art, ahead of Xander Hill, who was your third place finisher in pro, and he just held off the charge of Krista Halsoy for Tiki Simsport, with the Tractics Racing driver in the end working his way to a deserved 15th place. Now we'll carry on focusing with the podium finish of the classes here, because the points are scored in class. We won't draw too long the overall positions, but you can see they're second in the AM class, Nathan Anstis, 19th for UK Sim Racing Hill, 3 seconds ahead of Tom Weston, the third place AM driver for DDK with Digital Motor Art. You then have to go all the way down to 22nd place to find your rookie winner, and it was Push the Standard, who definitely pushed the banner high today, and the only rookie to finish on the lead lap, BJ Alvarez there, 22nd, ahead of Simon Cheshire, the run-up in rookie. Well done to Simon for Speed Designs UK. That was definitely a very solid drive there, and a well-deserved second place, and he was ahead of third place rookie driver in 27th, John Davies, the Wrong Stuff driver, or Jedi John, as we see him in the YouTube chat, making it 2 podiums back-to-back. Coming down to the very bottom of the field, we must give commiserations and a shout out and to the fact that after Thomas Helmer, who was your last finisher of the race, 2 laps down in 39th for NLK Racing, we did have retirements, unfortunately, for James Ibram, James Palsland, Dan Oliver Fox, Jordan Jones, Steve Hughes, Casper Tunstead, Alberto Crivelli, the man who took victory at Brands Hatch. That's a surprise and not a welcome one, to be certain. Niel Kenyon and Simon Oldfield. But for our 48 starters, and with a grand total of 39 finishers, let's talk about the individual class finisher positions then. And we start off with the elite class, and Daniel Stasuk taking the victory ahead of his teammate, a 1-2 for the team, and Niels Bakaj not quite on the pace of Daniel, but still doing a fantastic job to just stay ahead of Pavel Dozar in their brilliant battle for the runner-up spot, but in the end it went the way for the 734. The 191 for Paceworks Esports then rounding off the podium ahead of Sam Derbyshire for DDK with Race Anywhere, who in a different story today, could he have been on the podium? Who knows, but one thing's for certain, he worked hard to finish ahead of Milton Tomlinson Dennis, or the World of Racing STR Motorsports driver, never giving up in the chase after Derbyshire. That was your top 5. Austin William Campbell was in 6th after the instant and net spend, which definitely scattered the top 6 at the time. James Armstrong as well, with woes coming out of the turn 6 hairpin. The Brabham Motorsport driver had to settle for 7th, head of Jarrett Lee for Paceworks Esports, and Stuart Reynolds for Fury Simsport just behind him, and Simon Bamber in round off the top 10 there for Effect Simulations Carbon. It was a further 8 seconds to Helvaldo Gonzalez for Tractics Racing, and we did have the retirements of none other than James Ibram, James Palsland, after the car went over in itself onto the roof coming out of the nets. We do feel very sorry for him, but good thing is he's all okay and out the car, and Casper Tunstead and Alberto Gravelli rounding off your retirees. Coming on to the pro class, and as we can see here, it was a limited pro class of only 8 entrants today, but Ruben Berings led the way for DDK with Race Anywhere by 2.5 seconds over Casper Brotner, with the Old Dudes in Cars driving, ruining in the end the fact that the elite drivers ahead of Berings could not hold him up just a little bit longer and get him into the fight. But still, a good result all the same, and Xander Hill, 3rd place there for Tiki Simsport. Krista Halsoy, full for Tractics Racing, just out-edged Darryl Norquette at the end by getting Norquette to push himself into a mistake on the final lap, with the Racing Forces drive completing the top 5. That was Nathan Foster in 6th, ahead of lap-down drives of Daniel Shilcock for Tractics Racing and Charles Philippetz for DDK with Race Anywhere. The AM class then abounded, and at the very top of it, well, it was a Berings situation, because Brecht Berings had himself definitely set on a course for victory, and the DDK with Digital Motor Art driver taking victory by almost 25 seconds over UK Sim Racing Hill's Nathan Anstis. Tom Weston rounds off the top 3 of the AMs, and indeed the podium there, going to DDK Digital Motor Art drivers in 1st and 3rd, and then we did see Darren Sharples in 4th, a further 4 seconds behind. The Old Dudes in Cars driver then followed up by lap-down driver Sean Cranleigh-Swash, who, after having to bring the car to a halt at the start of the race, given the instant at turn 1, did well to recover to 5th place for Pigeon Racing. Head of UK Sim Racing Stewart's Rob Windsor, channeling the memory and the spirit of Jackie Stewart, and well, he was ahead of Jack Barker for Made for Racing, who, to be fair, despite getting pinched up on the Armco barrier, or indeed the bollard barrier at the exit of the Dunlop hairpin, did well to recover to 7th and enjoyed an absolutely brilliant battle with UK Sim Racing Stuart's James Connolly for that 7th place. Matt Edmondson rounded off the 9th place finish there, and indeed the last of the finishers of the race for UK Sim Racing Hill, with the Tom Price dedicated team of UK Sim Racing Price's Niel Kenyon in the end having to settle for retirement, and the same for Simon Oldford there for Hoof Hearted. Then coming to the rookie class, last but by no means least, and here we saw in the rookies, well, it was BJ Alvarez who in this one absolutely delivered. He really is a monster of Fuji in the rookies, and he demonstrated there for Push the Standard, having started from the back of the field and absolutely came through. And well, only was able to turn up midway through qualifying and didn't get a qualifying lap in, but he didn't need qualifying today. All he needed to do was put in qualifying lap after qualifying lap in the race. Simon Cheshire was your runner-up for Speed Designs UK, and a big shout out to him. He did a fantastic job. He may not have taken the victory, but that second place was hard fought. Had a John Davis for the wrong stuff, who had it go wrong at the start of the race, but made his way back onto the podium. And he is definitely looking very quick this season. Do not rule out the 26 driver. I think this could be his season, or at least one of his opportunities to go for a title fight. Richard Jones for Slow and Steady Racing was 4th in the end, just missed out on the podium, but still Slow and Steady Racing moving their drivers forward. Keep your eyes out for Jones. He's looking faster and faster with each and every race. Chris Bates was 5th for LLA. A good job from him in the 35 McLaren. Just ahead of fellow McLaren driver DWR Sim Coach Setups Purple, Simon Hartley. Now it was Alistair Murray for UK Sim Racing Hill ahead of Darian Giacovelli for Swazi Gold, and then Alex Brown and his teammate Stuart Pearson for Slow and Steady Racing, who round off the top 10. From Stuart Pearson, it was Thomas Helmer in 11th for NLK Racing. Then we did come to the retirements of Dan Oliver Fox, Jordan Jones and Steve Hughes. Well, those were your finishing positions, ladies and gentlemen, and what a race here at Fuji. Fuji always delivers when it comes to the close racing and drama, but of course, now we do have the big question, which is after all of our winners in terms of the race, who are going to be our winners of the giveaways? Well, give us a brief moment and we will get a giveaway screen on screen, and there it is. And we start off with none other than the 3-month subscription giveaway. Now, as always, the eligible drivers are anybody who made their way onto the grid and they started the race. That's all they've got to do to be eligible, and every one of our 48 drivers today made their way onto the grid and started the race, so well done to them, and let's get all 48 names put into the draw. Now for the 3-month subscription, there they all are, but we do have to chop a couple of names from the list because our previous 3-month winners include Simon Bamber and Ryan Davies. Now Ryan Davies was not on the grid today, however Simon Bamber was, and now the only problem is I've got to try and find his name, so I'm going to cheat by using a little bit of find and replace, and we will remove Simon Bamber there. So there goes Simon Bamber, and I will just double check to make sure we're not including a Ryan Davies in here accidentally. No, we're not. So therefore, we have got our 47 entrants. Good luck to them all. Let's spin the wheel and find out who is taking home the 3-month subscription. And it is going to be Zander Hill who takes home a 3-month virtual racing subscription. Congratulations there to Zander. We now come to the 2-month draw, and here we put all 48 names in again. But this time we have to remove, unfortunately, Jack Barker, and also we have to remove Simon Oldfield. So there goes Jack, and where is the Mr. Simon Oldfield? There he is. Let's chop him from the list, and therefore we've now got our 46 entrants. We spin the wheel again. And it's going to go to Darren Sharples. Congratulations to Daz, as he's also known, as he takes home the 2-month subscription. And last but not least, we've got our 1-month subscription draw to do. And from our 48 drivers, we must remove Pavel Dozal, and also we must remove James Armstrong. And there they both go. And well, let's spin the wheel and find out. And it's going to be Christopher Bates who takes on home the 1-month virtual racing subscription. Congratulations to all 3 of our raffle draw winners. And well, I'm sure there'll be plenty more raffle draws and prizes to be given out in 2 weeks' time with round number 4. But this does continue our theme, which is we have yet to see a repeat winner across 2 different draws over 3 opening rounds. And statistically, we should expect that, but I do wonder how long it'll be before we potentially see a first repeat name. But coming away from the draws then, it's time for the provisional standings after 3 rounds of racing. And here we start with the Elite Drivers' Championship, and we can see that Daniel Stasuk returns to the top by 5 points over Niels Bakaj. He is leading the way and continue to maintain that momentum for NJB Performance ahead of his teammate there, as it's a 1-2 for the 2, but then we can see only 2 points behind Paceworks Esports' Pavel Dozal. Then we've got Sam Derbyshire in 4th place, just ahead Milton Tomlinson Dennis. By result count back, it's very close between the two of them. Good fight starting to build between them, it must be said. And then we do have Stuart Reynolds in 6th, and he's ahead there of Joe Newman, with Austin William Campbell, James Palsland, and Tobias Kruken completing your top 10. With Kruken not on the grid as of this round, but we can expect him to be back after the mid-season break. Alberto Gravilli, he's in 11th place after retirement here, seeing him score 0 points. And then we do see none other than 12th place for Jarrett Lee, Simon Bamber in 13th, Casper Tunstead 14th, James Armstrong 15th, and then James Ibrahim and Helder Gonzalez completing the elite field. As we say hello there to Helder Gonzalez, and I hope you're doing well, Helder. It's good to see you in the YouTube chat. But then coming on to the pro class, and here we can see in the pros, Brecht Berings is gradually leading the way. However, we didn't have Ryan Davies on the grid last time out, and therefore these two closely matched, only 2 points between the two of them, and I think Ruben will be gutting the fact that he picked up those penalty points from Daytona, because otherwise the gap would be much larger, but instead it's only 2 points. Xander Hill sits in 3rd, a further 2 behind. It's still close and tasty between the top 3, with Daniel Shilcock now leading the rest of the field at 49, 1 ahead of Casper Rotner, and a further 2 ahead of Giles Philippetts. Darren Norquette sits in 7th, with Nathan Foster, Cy Anthony, and Krista Halsoy completing a top 10, and on the Tractix Racing driver, it's Matthew Sheraton and Christian Maltrek, neither of them on the grid today, and they've yet to score any points this season. Coming to the AM class, and here we can see the difference. Brecht Berings, he leads on 63 points, 11 clear of Niel Kenyon, and right now the question is, can anybody beat the number 6 of DDK with Digital Motor Art that seems to be trying to make it a perfect season of wins? Will Niel Kenyon will be the one to try and upset that? He has taken a win, but really we should clarify in the fact that right now for Brecht Berings, he's locked in a 10-point as drop score so far, but can he take an entire season of wins before accounting those? Well, once those drop scores are accounted, that seems to be the way he's going, but of course any mistakes, and Niel Kenyon will be one of many drivers to try and rise and take away those points. As will Sean Cranleigh-Swash, the Pigeon Racing driver, only a point behind the UK Sim Racing Price driver, and it's a further 3 points to Daniel Pais for Old Dudes in Cars, who's ahead of his teammate Daryl Sharples. From the top 5, it's then Tom Westner, a further point behind, ahead of Rob Windsor, with Peter Duke, who wasn't on the grid today. We hope to see him back in 2 weeks' time. And then we've got Nathan Anstis and Jack Barker round off your top 10, with best of the rest in 11th being James Connolly, ahead of Simon Oldfield, Matt Edmondson, Jeffrey Damon, and Ryan Woolsey. We then have round off the field Ashley Brooks, and unfortunately not able to make the grid this time. We do hope to see Ashley on the grid soon, and Ashley has wanted to be on the grid for the opening 3 rounds, but personal circumstances have stopped him from doing so. And Ashley, if you are listening in right now, we do hope to see you on the grid in the near future, because we can feel for you, and it's completely understandable. Life comes first, but we also do want to see you out there giving it your all. And then coming to the rookie class, last but by no means least, and here we can see, for the rookies, it's BJ Alvarez now, who has leapt his way into the lead by a 3-point advantage for Push the Standard over the wrong stuff's John Davies, but there's nothing between the two of them. And there is a sizable, best part of 9-point gap to Pavel Brus, who wasn't on the grid today, and after the great fortunes of Daytona and the misery of Brands Hatch, well, this will become a 0 score, and it's a drop score for him, but could we see him back on top form at our next circuit of VIR? Well, from the top 3, it's then Speed Designs UK's Simon Cheshire, who's equal on points to both Christopher Bates and Alistair Murray. They're all on 46 points together, and only 1 point behind Bruce. And then we have in 7th, Jordan Lee Jones, 2 points clear of Slow and Steady Racing Stuart Pearson, with Thomas Helmet and Alex Brown rounding off your top 10. Richard Jones sits best to rest in 11th, ahead of Steve Hughes, with Dan Oliver Fox, Simon Hartley, Darren Giacovelli, and Reese Kitley completing your top 16, all with points to their name, and yet to get any points, Martin Fernie in 17th place. As for the Teams Championship, we talk about the team's top 15, and after our opening 3 rounds, it's DDK with Digital Motor Art ahead of their sister team, DDK with Race Anywhere. It's a 1-2 for the DDK teams, and who can upset the party? Well, NJP Performance now only a point behind, and they'll be looking to be the party poopers when we do return at VIR in 2 weeks' time. Head of Paceworks Esports, the 3rd point behind, and then we have Old Dudes in Cars on 92 points complete in the top 5. Nobody is breaking away yet, and the same can be said in terms of the top 5 to the rest of the field. With UK Sim Racing Price only a further 3 points behind in 6th, head of Track 6 Racing in 7th, and then we finally have a sizable gap of 9 points to Slow and Steady Racing in 8th, 2 ahead of UK Sim Racing Hill. Effect Simulations sit in 10th, ahead of UK Sim Racing Stuart, who are the best of the rest, and it's Push the Standard, The Wrong Stuff, Tiki Simsport, and Pigeon Racing, who complete your top 15 team standings. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed the show today, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the UK sim racing community in terms of how you can be on the grid, or just get involved, or get to know some of the people behind the scenes, or anything in between, well, the wonderful thing is we have a dedicated website for all that information, and that website is at uksimracing.co.uk. And as our website appears on screen now, well, integrated with our official Discord and YouTube channel, our new website provides all the information you need for a quick and easy to navigate user interface. Indeed, you can check out the latest announcements on the homepage, which you're seeing here. You can also go to the live streams and videos on demand section, where you can see all the latest broadcasts and videos. Indeed, on race day as well, you can catch all of the onboards from all the drivers who are running the stream concurrently, so you can really tune in like it is F1 TV. We should really badge it as UK Sim Racing TV. And you also have the opportunity there to see who our partners are in terms of who we're affiliated with, and also you can go to the active leave section and check out both our current and upcoming series all in there. And also there's a link to join the official Discord alongside all of our social medias in the top right corner there. So there's never been a better time to go to the UK Sim Racing website and get into the know. And well, if you don't want to go to our website, perhaps you want to go straight to the beating heart of social media, well, the first thing to do is go to our Twitter and follow us there. It's at twitter.com/UK Sim Racing _ We can stay up to date with all the latest news and announcements from UK Sim Racing. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our title sponsor for this season. We're very happy to continue our ongoing partnership with the Virtual Racing School, and their web address is VRS.racing. And established in 2016, the VRS aims to help sim racers get faster through the provision of top-tier software and hardware, which draws upon the knowledge and experience of both real-life racing drivers and sim racing professionals. A VRS subscription, extremely popular with sim racers around the world, provides an intuitive solution for combining data analysis and coaching, which may be used by racers at all levels to take their racing to the highest level. Meanwhile, the VRS Direct Force Pro line of wheelbases and pedals offers the cutting edge in sim racing hardware, as used by more professional sim racers and real-life racing drivers than any other brand in the world, including Formula 1 sensation Oscar Piastri. So if you want to get faster, be sure to head to VRS.racing today to find out more. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's sad to say we head into our mid-season break. But when we do return, well, on Sunday, the 20th of July, engines will roar once again, because we'll get the second half of the season underway, and it'll be round number 4 at the Virginia International Raceway, where we'll get to see who is going to be carrying all that momentum away from Fuji, or who comes back the strongest from a week's break. Of course, the racing will be on the Sunday, but on Monday, the 21st of July, 2025, we come and invite you to join us watching as if it were live, as we bring you all the racing action as it unfolded, and we continue the tale of Season 15 of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League. But until then, we've been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.